Justice Watchers, before we begin, I want to make this absolutely clear. The following broadcast contains public domain courtroom footage, commentary, and legal analysis. This content is presented under the Fair Use Doctrine as defined by 17 U.S.C. 107 and is protected by multiple Supreme Court rulings, which you see below. This stream is transformative, educational, and journalistic in nature. It includes original commentary, trial breakdowns, legal interpretation, and critical analysis, not raw redistribution. We do not claim ownership over any public domain footage, and all use is strictly within legal bounds. If you're watching this content, you're engaging in a protected, transformative experience, grounded in law, never in speculation. And if anyone has a problem with that, take it up with Campbell, Brady, Miranda, and Irvin. Remember, guys, justice always works better when we watch. So keep watching. See you in the courtroom. All right, everybody. So I want to jump on here this morning and have a little discussion before the live trial starts in about 8 minutes. So this is going to be the only trial we have today. Simontilli case does not actually begin until April 1st. I thought it began Friday, and then I confirmed it's going to start tomorrow at 12:30. The Sturmer trial doesn't begin again until tomorrow at 9 a.m. So this will be the only one today. And then we're going to have the trial's going to go till 1 o'clock today, according to what the judge told us on Friday. And then they're going to be switching courtrooms because tomorrow the Karen Reed case starts. So this case is going to get bumped to a smaller courtroom because, as you can see, there's really nobody in the audience. So anyways, look, what do I want to talk about? Why am I coming on this morning? Because this case, I know there's a lot of you, I've heard it, a lot of people are saying, okay, why is this being tried? What's the reason why this matters? And this one is actually, believe it or not, one of the most interesting ones that we have going on right now. And there's a reason for that. And that's because the allegations that the defense is making and the argument that the defense is making is actually quite an interesting one. What they're arguing and what they're saying is that they're almost arguing a form of jury nullification in a sense. Because what they're arguing is that essentially he was unable to formulate the intent and the malice needed for the top charge. And the way they're going to try to get here, and again, the defense, you heard the one hand defense in the opening. Now that's giving the jury a route to even potentially quit this man completely of all the charges. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. And that's not really what the strategy is for the defense. Because what the strategy here is it is to sully the name and sully the reputation of this lady, turn the jury against her, make the jury feel that this is somebody who was trying to take advantage of this doctor, who was targeting him, who had set him up to take his house, take his cars, was cheating with other men, was using his friends, was doing all these things that were really nasty. And then threw this man out in the middle of, 2020 when, well, we can't talk about it on YouTube or say it, but when everybody was getting sick and they had the virus everywhere. And then coldly tells this guy, baits him into, because again, what the story is right now, what the defense is telling is and what they've brought out through the witnesses is that this guy gives her his house gives her his car in an attempt to reconcile. And the story they're floating right now is that she or he comes back into the house. He's there. They're having a night. They get into an argument. And she basically then tells him, hey, I'm throwing you out tomorrow. This is a story that they're going to tell. This is a story I guess this gentleman, I assume, communicates, because I don't think we're going to hear him testify, because he gives it. There's a statement that's going to come in from the police. And then what they're going to say is that she hits him in the head, and then he goes and with some one hand maneuver kills her. But here's the thing. What they know is that the problem with that, and the reason why he would not get a complete not guilty in this instance, is because the state is going to bring in medical evidence that's going to say he strangled her. But here's how they're going to counter it. And here's what they're angling towards that. He had a blood alcohol level when they found him in the hotel room the next day. I believe it was 0.224. So now, Massachusetts is an interesting state, because not every state you could make the argument the defense is going to make. In Massachusetts, a mitigating defense in an affirmative defense, the premeditation in malice, is voluntary intoxication. If the defense can prove that he was intoxicated, and that even though his hands were around her neck, or one hand was around her neck, and even though it takes a minimum of 3 minutes to strangle someone, which is normally plenty of time for a prosecutor to argue that you could have had the moment to change, because most of the time, if you're going to argue heat of passion, which is how you get to manslaughter, if there's a moment that you could stop, then that argument goes, and you're right into the top level of unaliving and the big M. They're going to argue that he was intoxicated, and as a result, in Massachusetts, it is recognized that if you are intoxicated, then you are intoxicated to such a state, and you do this crime, and there was provocation, which would have been the hit in the head, and the statements, and the cumulative behavior, and the cumulative nature of their relationship leading up to that moment, and the idea that she was doing all these things, they're going to say that at that moment, he's drunk, he's not able to formulate intent, he's not intending to do what he's doing, but he reacts, and he never stops, he never leaves that state of mind of reaction where she hits him, and he just, and then she's gone. And at some stage, he comes out of it, realizes, oh my God. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to separate that moment. And then when he realizes, oh my God, what have I done? And then he takes her body. Now, and here's how they're going to try to get away with it. He's a doctor, right? So most of the time, you would have a problem with that, because they would say, well, why didn't you call 911? Why didn't you take steps? How could you know that she was dead? Well, he's a doctor. So they're going to say he was able to assess at that moment that she was gone. And then he goes and makes a terrible decision to put her body in the pond. But that's a separate punishable thing. So the thing is this, you might be wondering, okay, well, all right, so he gets convicted of manslaughter. So what does that look like for him? Why would he be worried about, is that still going to result? He's 50 some years old. Is that going to result in the rest of his life in prison? No, it's not. Again, Massachusetts we're talking about. So in Massachusetts, the max sentence for manslaughter is 20 years. But get this, and this is where it gets interesting. In Massachusetts, if you're convicted of manslaughter, there is no minimum sentence. He could get probation. He could get time served. He could get a 5-year sentence. He could get a 10-year sentence. Now, here's the other kicker. Let's say the judge throws the book at him and gives him 20 years. He's only going to serve 10. He's already served 5. So it is very possible that this jury if this jury convicted him of manslaughter, that he would be out sometime within the next, well, it's not possible. He would be out within the next 5 years, even if he gets the worst case scenario, which is a 20-year sentence based on the way time served works and the structure and the fact that there was no weapon used, the fact that there was no or no firearm used in the crime. So this is a very, like I said, very, very interesting case, because this is a case where a manslaughter conviction, it's not quite a not guilty because he's going to walk away with a felony, and I don't know what his immigration status is or if he would be sent back to Germany or not. But it's a case where it would not result in him spending the rest of his life in prison. He would get out in a relatively quick amount of time. So the stakes are extremely high right now. And what they're going to try to do, like I said, is they're going to try to take advantage of the law in Massachusetts that recognizes that voluntary intoxication is a legal affirmative defense to premeditation and to malice. So that's where we stand on this. Leah T, I don't know if you were in here earlier when I addressed that, but the Cementilli case is coming back tomorrow. They were on a break, and then I guess there were some juror issues. So the judge had a seminar from Monday to Thursday, and then there were some juror-related things. So they took off Friday, and they took off today, and they will be back tomorrow at 12:30. So that will be happening tomorrow. So this will be interesting. Well, the thing is, though, Mo Freedom. Here's the thing. I think it's going to be a matter of, the defense thinks that this lady is going to really be portrayed, is really going to come across poorly to this jury, in the sense that they believe, I think, that if this jury understands the full picture here, that they're going to look at her as somebody. And I think they've got a lot of, again, remember, the gentleman that's on the stand right now, they just introduced all these text messages, which is not helpful at all, to where she's having inappropriate conversations with that gentleman. That's why he's so nervous on the witness stand. And there's going to be others. The friend, you could tell, the first lady that was called, she was very aggressive in the sense that she was not avoiding and wanting to avoid the full context of what was happening. So I think that what they're going to do here is they're going to try to put on, and I assume they're going to call the divorce attorney in to talk about some of the issues that were present in the divorce, in the sense that what she got and how she was able to get these things from him. And again, they extracted from the one lady who said, I made a good score. And of course, they say, oh, score means, like I scored a great guy. And the idea here is, well, not quite, because she's dating other men. Remember, she agreed to let him move back in to be in part of that agreement was, and this is the stuff that's going to come out. Part of the agreement was that he could move back in and her name went on the deed. Essentially, she becomes a homeowner, right? And I believe she got the Mercedes, the $150,000 Mercedes. She's dating another man, right? And then there's the message the morning of that says she's a snake and she manipulated us all. And we haven't heard what that is about and what he meant by that. So the point of this case is going to be that there is a lot of really underhanded, dirty, sordid things that apparently this lady was doing. And that she was not in this for love or for him, and that she was more or less trying to get his money. And the question at hand is, all right, this gentleman who's been tossed out of his house, she put a restraining order on him. Now, again, we don't know how valid or any of that is. And I guess we'll find out, because the state's going to, I'm sure, present that. Because if the state, to me, the state's case has to be that this gentleman was abusive. So there's a line of just actions and behaviors. I assume we're going to hear more about the background of that restraining order, and it's going to be kind of told in the sense that this was a build-up to this moment. And then the defense is going to say, no, none of that was happening, and she was portraying him this way for the purposes of taking advantage of him and getting his money. I don't know what it will be, but the biggest problem that the defense has, in my opinion, and no, it has not, Rebecca. I agree. It has not gone well for the state. And right now, I don't have the warm and fuzzies in terms of this lady and what I've seen. When I heard about this case, I really was not expecting there to be much to this case, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, this guy is about as dead to rights gotten as you're going to get. And then the case starts to progress, and then I'm listening to these witnesses, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's something wrong. That one lady, I'm like, nah, there's something wrong with the way she's telling this story. She's hiding things, and when she tries to reframe a statement that they have her saying in text messages, which is, man, I made a great score. No, that's not what she didn't mean. She made a great score as and I have a great man. She meant she hit the freaking lottery here, right? She's got a guy who's willing to give her the world, and she's taking it all. 3 kids, moves in, but you know, when you think to yourself, all right, you've just signed your house over to this woman. You've just signed your car over to this woman. He's here. There's alcohol involved. And she apparently that night there's a tough conversation. In that conversation, did he discover something? We know he did, because the gentleman that's on the stand, he sent the message to that says she deceived us all. She was a snake. So what does that mean? And these are things, and the reason why these are significant things is because these are things that are done, right? Now, maybe there was planning, and we'll find out. Well, Sandy Ashworth, he killed her, end of story. That's not true. That's not end of story, okay? People, there's always a story behind things. If end of story means there'd be no self-defense case that would ever happen. I'm not saying this is self-defense. I don't think it is. I don't think you can justify self-defense here. But when it comes to trials and it comes to the criminality of the actions, you have to match it up. And the state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this gentleman acted with malice aforethought and acted with premeditation. Well, because Tony, you got to remember the situation that you got to remember the situation he was in. Okay, there's a couple things. Number one, he was not an active practicing doctor at that time. He had been suspended due to Medicare fraud. Okay, so number one, he did not have a job. He did not have income. He was living off of his savings, and he had a house payment. He had, obviously other full expenditures. But one of the things you've got to understand is he was unemployed at the time. Okay. Two, we were in the middle of the big P, if you remember what 2020 was all about. So he's in the middle of all that. So there's not a lot of people that are saying, come live at my house. Everybody's home. Everybody's, sheltering in place and not able to go out. So that's why he was reaching out to his friends saying, can I stay there? In normal times, you might not have a house full of people that are staying there at all at one time. And people are like, no, you can't do that. So he ends up having to go down to Florida. So the situation for him was not good. He was not actively practicing. He was not able to work. And he was trying to find a job. And that's why he was looking at potentially going to Germany. And this lady gets him to hand her over his biggest asset, which was his house. Kate says she was a total gold digger. He was obviously lonely and wanted a relationship. Maybe he started drinking due to feeling. Well, exactly, she was. I think that's what the defense is going to try to show here. And when that realization hits him, and when she tells him, and apparently she was a silver-toned woman that could upset him greatly. And I mean, again, remember, look at those inappropriate messages she was giving to the dude that's on the witness stand right now, right? If he were to see that, the idea behind manslaughter, now, if he's not drinking and he has a moment to calm down, you don't get to strangle somebody. But the idea here is he's drinking, they're fighting, he gets down on his knees, he's begging her, please don't do what you're about to do. And she hits him across the head and he reacts and goes after her. Now, the thing is, if he was in West Virginia, the alcohol would not mitigate that. But he's in Massachusetts. Massachusetts recognizes the fact that if you are intoxicated voluntarily,
you can raise that as a defense to mitigate and eliminate malice and premeditation. You cannot formulate that in those circumstances in Massachusetts. So as a result, the defense just has to show that. Now, the state is going to claim that the intoxication happened, or the massive amount of intoxication. I remember he was like 0.227 or 0.224. He was very intoxicated when they found him. They're going to say that happened afterwards. And if that wasn't present at the time this occurred, and he was able to formulate the ability to realize what he was doing, and again, we haven't heard the police statement yet, but that's going to play a big role in this, because if you're intoxicated to that degree, you should be blacked out, right? Drunk. So you should not remember what you did. So again, this is why I said it's not going to be an easy case, but it's going to be an interesting case. And it's going to be one that I think this jury is going to struggle with a little bit. But I think it's also interesting because what the defense is doing here, and again, this is where we come back to Mo Freedom said, I don't think it's going to be a good strategy to solely the name and victim blame. Well, we're going to find out, because what I think they're really going to push for here is they're going to try to absolutely, and you can see this defense attorney is being very aggressive in doing so. They're going to take a big fat dump on this lady, and they are going to absolutely try to destroy her name. And what they're going to hope is that this jury is going to be so upset with her that they're not only going to say, you know what, we're so upset, the defense has given us the route to completely acquit him. And that is this magical hand defense, that he just reaches up and somehow with one hand, Incredible Hulk style, just like crushes her neck. And it was in self-defense. And if you believe that, if a juror believes that, they could find him not guilty completely. So, and it's really a form of jury nullification. And this is what you're seeing, the positioning. And the real correct way to do jury nullification is exactly what you're seeing this defense attorney do. And that is, you give the jury a viable path to a not guilty, and in this case, it's self-defense. You completely destroy the victim. You make them hate her, and then you say, you know what? Hasn't this man suffered enough? He lost his house. He's been 5 years in jail. She did all these things to him. Why don't we just let him off? We'll see if it works. Anyways, court is beginning. Let's jump into the courtroom, guys. I want to give you guys that little brief discussion because I saw a lot of questions in the comments, not understanding why a lot of things and a lot of aspects and how's this working. So I want to give you guys a little precursor on what the laws in Massachusetts are and what the defense is relying upon in this case to launch this defense. So hopefully this gives you guys a little more perspective as we continue to listen to this friend and see whatever the next steps are that the state are going to present. And today, remember, guys, 1 o'clock, that's when this thing will end. And then we will be offline for live trials today until tomorrow. And we will be back with all three. Actually, we'll have 4 trials. K-Tay, the rapper K-Tay is on trial in Texas. We're going to be bringing you that one. So there will be 4 trials going on tomorrow. So be ready for that. Anyways, let's head into the courtroom, guys. Appreciate all of you. Hit the like button, share this stream to help bring attention to the case. And I'll talk to you guys soon.
Commonwealth versus Ingolf Tuerk, 20 CR 138. The parties are present. The jury is not present. The matter is on for trial.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
All right, so I'm told that all the jurors are in. Did you want to address something, Ms.
Yes,
Beatty?
please.
Yes.
I'm objecting to the defendant continuing to cross-examine this witness regarding text messages. This witness testified on direct examination to nothing that was particularly opinionated or descriptive regarding the victim or the defendant. He was the recipient of a text message that started the investigation. The defendant is not challenging that he sent this text message, it appears, to the Commonwealth at this point in time, and has already elicited many text conversations regarding communications of a sexual nature, the defendant wanting an annulment, requesting communications when the defendant is not around. And I would suggest that all of this serves only to disparage the victim and to potentially lead to some sort of a nullification regarding the manslaughter that was raised in the opening. It's cumulative at this point, and I would suggest that this line of questioning should end at this point in time.
I don't show any surprise over the government's requesting that you shut me down at this point, cross-examining this witness. And my suggestion to the court, and I speak to you as a former trial attorney, you know and you're well familiar with the fact that when you cross-examine a witness, especially a hostile witness, especially a witness that is called for the other side, and you're cross-examining that person, it's almost like, making candy, if you will. There's a time when the candy starts to solidify. You got to pour it into you know where you're going with your questioning. For them to suggest right now that I'm shut down in front of this jury and sit down like a dunce and just say, okay, I have no further questions, I think is, number one, extremely prejudicial to the defendant. Number two, the government has no idea where I'm going with this. Number three, this guy was well up to here with his discussions with McLean as to the settlements, what should I do? He won't settle. Fannin-Steele says, I'll talk to him. Let me talk to him. There are significant discussions back and forth with his state of mind, Fannin-Steele's state of mind, talking about the pandemic, statements that are made by Dr. Tuerk as to his fear and concerns about the pandemic, not just, can I stay with you? All of these things are all legitimate questions. And I'm towards the end, obviously, of my cross, so I would take a significant objection to being told I can't cross-examine this witness.
So just to be clear, I don't think it's the cross-examination in general, correct?
No, it's this line of questioning. Right. I would suggest that statements of the pandemic are very different than the line of questioning that's been, there may be other objections to that, but and statements regarding reconciliation and Mr. Fannin-Steele mediating between the parties, that's also a different line of questioning.
Okay. So to the extent the cross-examination goes to the victim's state of mind, which we already talked about, that would be permissible. And to the extent it goes to any bias on behalf of this witness, meaning his relationship with Ms. McLean, that's also permissible. However, I think you've already established that he had a close relationship with Ms. McLean. So any further questioning about specific texts with respect to...
I caution the court, with all due respect, not to shut me down on the texts between this witness and Ms. McLean, because it goes to the heart of the cross-examination, and he has a right to confront the witness. I know the government is not happy with the way the witness has stood up, if you will, but to suggest that I have to now, in front of this jury, have no further questions regarding text where you know that I am ready to go on that with a fairly short balance to finish off my cross-examination, Your Honor, I would significantly object to being shut down in that regard. I understand your concern. I have a couple of other questions that I'd like to ask this individual, but I ask that the court not close down, if you will, cross-examination.
Again, to be clear, my objection is not to questions regarding text messages. My objection is only to text messages regarding what Mr. Reddington characterized at sidebar was an inappropriate relationship between the victim and himself.
Right.
Well, it is an inappropriate relationship, and there's
so I will take it question by question. Your objection is noted. I think you've established, with respect to the inappropriate messages back and forth, that's been established.
I understand that, yep.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you.
All right. And who do you have after this witness?
Officer Ellis.
Okay. All right, and before I bring the jurors in, you prepared to go a full day or almost a full day tomorrow?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And if Wednesday is possible also, we could talk about that tomorrow.
All right, we'll check on Wednesday. We are moving courtrooms tomorrow, so we'll end at 1 o'clock today.
Thank you.
Okay?
We're going in the small courtroom
We
tomorrow?
are. Okay. All right, I'll step off and bring the jurors in.
All rise. You may be seated.
New locking system. It's very, very nice. Thank you.
I just hope it's a good season so you can get out. Because you could do 6 months. That's a good place. That's what you can make. That wouldn't kill it. It would be enough. Watch out, Aiden. She's going to beat you up. Sure, give me something better than like I lost something all over the place. I hate that little courtroom. Do you know what that courtroom was? I'm so fucking old. I remember Judge Earl, Sue Earl was that. This is a Superior Court judge. He was a motherfucker. He was a tough guy. Good judge, but tough. And he and I get along. Oh, probation wanted to make little warrants. And he was the actually. I said, no. I mean, this goes back. He goes, no, I'm not sure that in the courtroom. Those windows are bulletproof. I'm driving the crash. He was afraid somebody was going to snipe at him. No, just those two behind, just the ones like behind. And you can kind of see it's a little opaque if you look at it, but they look pretty good. They look like regular glass, but so that was his courtroom, and then they, ever since then we've been using it. I've had a shitload of trials in there, but
Court, all rise. Now in session, you may be seated. Jurors entering, all rise. Hey, all persons having anything to do before the Honorable Judge Halal, Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court, now sitting in Dedham, within and for the County of Norfolk, for the transaction of criminal business. Draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and this honorable court. This court is now open. You may be seated.
For the record before the court is Commonwealth versus Ingolf Tuerk, 20 CR 138. The parties are present. Our 16 jurors are present. The matter is on for trial.
All right, good morning, jurors. Hope you had a nice weekend. Let me just ask, was everybody able to follow the instructions that I gave you on Friday? Anybody who was not able to follow the instructions, please raise your hand. Okay, no hands are being raised. We're going to continue on. We'll take a morning recess today. We're going to break for the day around 1 o'clock. Tomorrow will be more of a full day, so we'll go until about 4 o'clock tomorrow, and then I'll let you know about Wednesday as we get into today. Just to remind you again, we do not have court Thursday or Friday of this week. Okay, thank you. Do you want to recall the witness, Ms. Beatty?
Mr. Fansfield, please.
Take your time. Just watch your step, please.
Just raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us God?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, good morning, sir. If you could just pull that microphone close to you, if you could just keep your voice up so everybody can hear you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Now, sir, just for the record, you are Kurt Pfannenstiel, the same witness who testified at the time we broke on Friday. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Pfannenstiel, you were aware that Ms. McLean and Harry Tuerk were in a relationship going all the way back to June of 19, right?
Yes.
Did you know them when she moved into his house after dating for about 4 months or so?
I think I met him after that.
Okay. And do you remember when you spoke to the police, for example, Sergeant John Fanning from the Massachusetts State Police, a detective? You spoke with him, right? You may not remember his name, but you spoke to a state detective, state police?
Yes.
Okay. And you've had a chance to review your police reports, right?
I don't think so.
Would you agree with me that it was on May 15th at 2020 around 6 o'clock that you were interviewed initially by the police, being Chief McGowan from Dover Police as well as Detective Fanning from the State Police?
I think so, yes.
Okay, and that interview took place in your driveway, if you remember?
I think so, yes.
All right. And you knew that they had found Ms. McLean at that point, is that correct?
Yes.
And you knew that this was basically a homicide investigation that was being performed, correct?
Yes.
And you knew that obviously the person who was deceased was Ms. McLean, right?
Yes.
And you knew that the police would be looking into various people that could possibly be suspects and things of that nature, right?
Yes.
And one of the things would be if a person was having a relationship with somebody. They may very well, usually, it's a husband or a boyfriend or something like that, right?
Yes.
So you were concerned about whether or not you would be in the crosshairs of this investigation, right?
Sure.
So as a result of your concern, and prior to speaking to the police, you deleted a number of texts, correct?
I guess so, yes.
You guess so. If I suggest to you, sir, that a review, let me back up. When you gave your phone to the police to have the phone done, you knew that they were going to use some device to get into your phone and pull out the text, emails, photographs, things like that, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Did you tell the police that you had texts on your phone?
I don't recall.
Well, you did tell them about receiving the text from Harry at 3:30 or whatever in the morning, right? Correct?
Yeah.
He was a devil, we know that, right? Did you tell the police that you had a number of texts going back to June 14th of 2019 that were deleted?
No, they didn't ask me that.
They didn't ask, okay. Now, when you gave your phone to the police, they extracted what they could, which would really be a handful of texts, is that right?
Objection.
Sustained. Rephrase it, please.
Do you know how many texts the police got out of your phone?
I have no idea.
Did the police ever talk to you about your phone?
No.
Did the police ever ask you one question about whether or not you had any type of a relationship with Ms. McLean?
No.
So, you know that during the course of this litigation that I was able to access her phone and have a phone dump on her phone. If I suggest to you, sir, that there are 5,173 texts that you deleted, would that refresh your memory this morning?
Objection.
Overruled. He can answer that. You can answer it, sir.
I don't know how many there were.
I'm sorry?
I wouldn't know how many.
But there were a lot, right?
I guess so.
Okay. Where did you delete the text? Were you like sitting in your kitchen or were you out in your backyard? Where did you delete it?
I don't recall.
You don't recall? In your conversations, and when I say conversations at this point with Ms. McLean, sir, would you agree with me that there would be warnings between the two of you, if you will, reference to page 439, and this would be November 7th of 2019 conversation. You indicated to Ms. McLean, please be careful. You got any text?
No.
No? You recall conversations where she indicated to you, and this would be on page 440, Harry's in his office, I'm in the kitchen, and then you said, we'll talk later. Remember that, sir?
No.
How about 441, where you indicated to Ms. McLean, November 8th, 2019, erase our conversation. Was that?
I have no idea.
Did you ever, to your knowledge, sir, tell her to erase that conversation?
I don't remember saying that.
It's on your text. Why would you tell her to erase that conversation?
I have no idea.
November 17th of 2019, this is representation of representative. You recall, sir, they're texting her and then making reference to texts on the cell, erase mine, please. Remember that?
No, I don't.
When you were speaking with the police, sir, in the driveway, they were asking you, because obviously you were an important, potentially, witness of their relationship. They meaning Harry Tuerk and Ms. McLean, right? You were a potential witness to their relationship, right?
I guess so, yes.
You indicated that you had known, and this again would be on June 5th, strike that, May 15th of 2020, let's call it the driveway conversation, okay? That's May 15th of 2020, right? Okay?
Yeah.
That'd be the day that she was discovered, is that correct?
Yeah, I guess so, yes.
Okay. I mean, that was obviously something that was of monumental importance to you in your life, wasn't it?
What? I'm sorry.
That's all right, that they found her body in a pond?
Yeah.
Okay. And you wanted to be helpful and cooperative with the police, right?
Yeah.
And when you were talking to the police, they asked you how long, again, have in mind, this is back in May of 2020, that they asked you how long you had known Harry and Katie, right? Do you remember that?
That they asked me how long I knew him?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a normal question a cop would ask, right?
Sure.
And how long, as of May 2020, had you known them?
I don't recall, like, I don't remember.
If the witness could answer.
Okay. All right, just ask it again, Mr. Reddington,
Good.
please.
How long, as of May of 2020, did you know Harry and Ms. McLean?
I don't recall when exactly I met him.
Would it refresh your memory, sir, if you told the police that you had known them for about 2 to 3 years? You want me to show it to you?
No, I believe you.
Okay. Do you recall indicating to the police that you had known both Harry and Ms. McLean for 2 to 3 years, and that you stayed friends with them over that period of time, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Tell them that? You told them that you were a closer friend of Katie, right? If you want to see it, let me know.
Yes, she was a friend of mine.
Okay. And that you knew that they got married in Las Vegas in February of 2020, right? You knew that.
Yeah.
And you knew that from her, right? Correct?
Yeah.
The first time that you heard of Katie and Harry having an altercation was when Katie filed a restraining order against Harry, is what you told the police, right?
What do you mean? Did they tell me that?
Okay. You remember the conversation in the driveway, right?
With the police?
Yes, with the police, sir, yes.
Okay.
Okay. And do you remember indicating that you first heard about Katie and Harry having an altercation this winter when Kate filed a restraining order against Harry? Those are your words to the police.
Okay.
Okay. Okay?
Yeah.
That's correct, right?
Yeah.
And when you say you mean basically that you agree that the first time you heard was when Katie filed the restraining order in May of 2020, right?
Objection as to form.
Okay, sustained. Rephrase it, please.
Would you agree with me, sir, that you indicated that you first heard about Katie and Harry having an altercation was when she filed a restraining order against Harry? Yes or no?
I think so, yes.
Do you remember talking to the police in the driveway?
I don't really remember the conversation.
When you were being prepared for your testimony in this case, sir, anybody ever take a police report with your statement in it and show it to you?
No.
So I'm going to show you Kurt Fannin still, excuse me, right? You, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And this would be when the detectives were making their notes or putting their report together as to their interview with you in the driveway, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And read that to yourself, sir, the bottom line about when you first heard it. See if that refreshes your memory.
Okay.
Okay? Does that refresh your memory, sir?
Yeah.
When was the first time that you heard about an altercation between Kate McLean and Harry?
I guess it was on that day.
And that day meaning when she filed a restraining order against him.
I guess so, yes.
And that would be in May of 2020, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, February of 2020. Right?
Yes.
You guess. But you knew when he was thrown out of the house, right?
Yes.
Now, you knew that they had been in a relationship, obviously we've established that, in 2 to 3 years you knew them, right?
Yes.
And you knew when they got married, right?
Yeah.
And you knew they were married for about 4 to 5 months, and then she got the restraining order, correct?
I guess so, yes.
That's when he was ordered out of the house, his house, right?
Okay.
She stayed in his house with the 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
And you knew that, correct?
Yeah.
Because you were over there on occasion, right?
Yeah.
And how many times have you gone over?
I have no idea how many times.
Was it to talk about Reiki?
I was there for Reiki, yes.
Oh, we were there, you had Reiki with her in the house.
Yeah.
How many times did you do that?
Once.
Objection asked and answered.
Okay, overruled, that may stand.
So during this period of time, that when I say this period of time, I mean that he is out of the house, fair to say that you continue to ramp up, if you will, the texting with her, right? You texted a lot, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. Your relationship with Harry, you would agree at least that you were friends. Maybe I think you would say you're not best friends, but you were close friends with Harry, correct?
Friends, yeah.
Well, he thought you were close friends, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
So he sent you the text saying, Kurt, I'm sorry, brother, but she's a vindictive devil. She played us all. I'm really sorry, brother, but she manipulated us all. Love you. Harry, he sent that to you, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't just send that randomly to some guy that you knew as an acquaintance, would you?
Objection.
Sustained.
So you then had occasion to speak to the police. How many times did you speak to the police, by the way, if you recall?
I don't recall.
What?
I don't recall.
You were texting her back in February of 2020, like on February 22nd, literally about 2 weeks, 3 weeks after he was out of the house, you were texting her, correct?
I guess so.
Now from February of 20 to March of 20 to April of 20 into the beginning of May of 20, you didn't have many texts with Harry, did you?
I don't recall.
So you recall that on February 22nd of 2020, you were advised by Ms. McLean, this would be page 830, that she had pulled her back and it was sore. Do you remember that, sir?
No.
Do you recall asking, how's your back? And then saying, when she said it's sore, come here, I'll fix it. I can massage you. Do you remember saying that to her? He was out of the house for 3 weeks.
No.
Did you talk to Harry at all in that time frame that you recall on the phone?
I don't recall.
Did you know where he was, sir, other than some nebulous down in Florida? Did you know where he was staying?
No.
You knew it was at the height of the pandemic, or the pandemic that basically the world was shut down, right?
Okay.
You knew you couldn't talk to people. You had to wear masks and you had to social distance. This is before you could even eat dinner behind plexiglass, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Did you talk to Harry at all and find out how he was doing or where he was staying or what?
I don't recall.
But you stayed in touch with Kathleen McLean, didn't you?
Yeah, just as friends.
That's just as friends. No big deal, right? I mean, you would have the respect for a guy's married wife, right? Correct?
Yeah.
You wouldn't ask to see her boobs, would you?
No.
Objection.
Well, you did.
Objection.
Sustained.
Excuse me. Can I see the side about that?
Yes.
Again, sir, your phone is the 4714, correct?
Yes,
Her phone is the 9407, correct?
yes.
And this is page 889. You see that text from you to Ms. McLean, sir? Yes?
Yeah,
Yeah. And when was that?
on 3/2/20.
March 2nd of 2020. What did you say to her?
I want to see your boobs.
I want to see your boobs. Did she show you her boobs?
I don't recall.
You don't recall? Give me that, please. In the same conversation, sir, do you recall that the two of you were talking about the pandemic and her state of mind, and it was that she had it on a reliable source, that they're going to implement shelter in place, and that they had the National Guard called in? Do you recall her saying that to you?
No,
Do you recall discussing the pandemic with her? Do you
No.
recall discussing friends that you knew that had died from the pandemic with her?
no,
Do you recall her discussing with you friends that had died, relatives in the pandemic, sir?
I don't really recall who.
And you were living in your house at this time, right?
Yeah,
You were safe in your house, weren't you?
yeah,
And she was living in Harry's house, right?
I guess so.
You want to mark those for ID, Mr. Reddington?
Yes, Your Do you recall asking her to put on her best sexy outfit, telling her she's bad and naughty?
Objection.
Sustained.
No,
Did you ever recall, sir, that you went over to, this would be on page 1307. Do you recall, now this is April 10th of 2020. You knew in April of 2020 that Harry and his wife were in the process of trying to negotiate a settlement, right?
I don't recall that.
Well, you recall, you knew, let's do it like this. You knew that they were separated, correct?
I guess so.
You knew he was living out of state in Florida, correct?
Yeah,
Because you had talked to him. You know he was living in a trailer, right?
okay.
Huh?
Yeah, I guess, what?
What is that you just said, that grunt? What is that?
I guess so, yeah.
All right, he's living in a trailer and he would talk to you very seldomly to let you know what you were saying, right?
I guess so, yeah.
You recall him sending you a text that you would forward it to Katie LOL because he had said to you that he was in dire fear of dying in the pandemic and that it's not good, Kurt? Remember that one?
I don't really remember, but yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember, but yeah, and that he was in dire fear of dying from the pandemic and that he told you it's not good and that he was not well and asked if he could stay with you, right?
He did ask me, yeah.
Right, you said I'll get back to you on that, but let's have dinner. What you said, right?
I guess so, yeah.
You recall that April 10th of 2020, she sent you a text that he said, I got an email, he's not negotiating us staying here. He's not negotiating, remember that?
No,
When she said to you, us staying here, that would mean her and her 3 kids staying in his house, right?
I guess so.
And he's not negotiating, and she was upset about that, right?
I guess so.
And you then responded, come on. Remember that?
No,
And then she said, so I got to move forward. Remember that?
no.
And then you said, with what? And she said, everything. She said, if he's not negotiating, then this leaves me no choice. And then you went on and said, he's crazy to keep going. He told him, right? He told her.
I guess so.
And then she said, he'll be broke from lawyers. Did you recall anything about those conversations, sir?
No, I
Do you
don't.
recall her ever reaching out to you for advice or assistance with her negotiations?
No, I don't really recall that.
Double I for identification.
as it relates to her state of mind, sir, on April 21st, when things were really heightening with the pandemic, do you recall, and this would be page 1465, that she told you 2 friends' parents died yesterday?
Objection.
Sustained.
Does that at least refresh your memory as to further conversations?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, okay, my preferred.
Double J for identification.
And then, on April 23rd, sir, page 1493, is when you indicated you sent her a text in the morning, I'm still in bed, help me. And then she told you that she was talking to people on the phone. Do you recall that, telling her you were in bed?
Form.
Sustained. Rephrase it, please.
Do you recall, around April, the end of April, 2004, you were texting her and started off the morning by saying, I'm still in bed. Do you remember that?
No.
Do you recall texting her and her indicating, around that time, I'm on the phone, and she was on the phone with a number of people, and you kept asking her when she was going to be able to FaceTime and text you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Good.
Sustained.
Do you recall during the course of that conversation that you don't recall, that she said, you are so naughty, you're a bad, bad boy? Do you remember that?
Sustained.
No.
Do you recall indicating, sir, that I'll talk to him because she was complaining that he still would not settle the case? Do you remember that, sir?
No.
You don't recall saying you'll talk to him?
Huh?
You don't recall saying I'll talk to him, meaning Harry?
I might have. I don't.
Right, you might have. And when you say to her, because she was complaining that he wouldn't settle, and you said, I'll talk to him. What was that about? What were you going to say to him? Were you going to advise him?
I don't remember.
What?
I don't remember.
Did you ever talk to him about settling the case, the probate case?
I don't recall.
April 23rd? No, you don't remember?
JK for identification.
Do you recall, sir, that she actually shared with you in detail the negotiations that she had with Harry about getting the house or getting on the deed of the house, about him giving her money on a post-nup agreement? She talked to you about that. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that. I don't think she did.
Okay, do you remember her saying, Harry's not getting the things I was saying during a joint meeting that they had of lawyers and Kate McLean and Harry? I think Harry didn't get the things I'm saying because they kept muting me. This is back when you had to do things by Zoom. You remember her saying that to you?
No, I don't.
And that she said this has to be wrapped up no later than May 1st, him home because of the virus? Do you remember anything like that?
No, this is like 5 years ago. I don't remember.
Yeah. Do you remember saying, okay, I'll talk to him? And that would be this page 1513. I'll talk to him. Again, what are you going to talk to him about?
I don't recall.
Were you going to call him up as a guy that's kind of not a good friend, just an acquaintance, and give him advice on what he should do about the house and settling it and giving her the house?
That's not my choice.
Sustained. Rephrase it, please.
Do you remember her saying, as long as he agrees to the post-nup, we're okay?
I don't remember that.
And then you said, I'll call you. So you have basically, you have no memories apparently at all of assisting her in the sense of talking to him about settling the probate case, the divorce between the two of them, right? Is that right?
Right.
LL for identification.
Do you recall 1596, where she was complaining that he was complaining about being in Florida, and she said to you, well, he's not trying to take care of 3 kids and a dog, and you're like, right, I agree, and then she said, he has tons of money. Do you remember that, sir?
I don't really remember it, but if it says that.
What?
I don't remember it, but if it says that.
Right, and then you say, yup. And that she then said, his state of mind, he's saying he can't stay at a hotel. He's afraid of COVID. And this is back in May 5 of 2020. She's sharing with you, confiding in you, her conversations with her husband that was saying he couldn't stay in a hotel because he's afraid of COVID. May 5, 20. Remember that?
I guess he was, yeah.
Yeah, I guess he was, because he'd already texted you a couple of times about his death fear about that, right?
Yeah.
And you said, I agree, is what you said, sir. Right?
Yeah.
Do you recall responding, tell him to suck it up?
No.
On May 6th, do you recall sending her a text saying, I'll meet you in the garage in 5? Do you recall that, sir?
No.
Is that one of the days that you recall going to the garage?
I don't know why I would have gone to the garage.
Okay. Do you remember telling her on May 6th at 6:41 p.m.? Again, 4714 is your phone, 9407 is her phone, right?
Yeah.
And showing you this, sir. Text. Tell her I'll meet you in the garage.
I guess.
You guess. And then you said in 5. Tell her that?
Yeah.
Objection as to procedure at this point.
Procedure?
Okay, so ask him if it refreshes his recollection.
Does that refresh your memory, sir, that you told her that you'd meet her in the garage in 5?
I guess so.
Okay. And then when she responded, I'm just too good to you. Do you recall that, sir? Right there.
Yeah, I see that, yeah.
Okay. And have in mind that this would be on May 6th, 2020, at, make sure I read that right, 6:42 in the evening, right?
Yeah.
6:45, okay? You met her in the garage, didn't you?
Yeah.
And what did you do in the garage?
I think she gave me food for some reason.
She gave you food.
Yeah, it was like, wasn't that around the holiday? I didn't have family around, and
What holiday? This is May 6th.
she had like friends over or whatever, had extra food, and I don't remember.
So without having at least any text conversation, you knew that she had food, so you said, I'll come to the garage and see you in 5?
No, I don't really recall the whole thing. I don't.
So May 6th, 2020, at 7:09, which is about 20 minutes later, she texted you, you were so nervous. It was cute. My mind was racing. And you responded, me too. Remember that, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, why was your mind racing and why were you nervous?
Because I didn't want to be at that house.
Dane, wait for the objection, sir. Go ahead, next question.
Do you recall her indicating, I'm going to come?
No.
Objection.
Okay, overrule, next question.
Well,
NN for
Would you agree, sir, that you were in love with Kate McLean?
Sorry, what?
That you were in love or had feelings for Kate McLean?
Just as friends.
Just as friends. Do you recall, and this would be on May 7th, page 1639, texting her, I think you and I are feeling the same. And then you texted again, hello, and then you texted again. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Just friends.
So when you said, I think you and I are feeling the same, after all this time, you were just friends?
I don't know why, but just friends.
And finally, sir, around page 1646, and she's providing you information as to her state of mind about her husband's condition during the pandemic, and I think she's objecting.
Ask the question.
She indicated to you that she was upset. You said, why? What happened? She indicated to you he's hurt and he needs my help. And then she said he's hurt. He looks bad. And you asked, how was your visit with him? She said, he looks bad, Kurt, very bad. He's on tons of medication, high blood pressure. You said, sad. Yeah, it's more his spirit. It's collapsed. He's different.
Objection.
No, overruled.
She share that with you, sir?
I guess she did.
Did you care?
Of course, you don't want someone to, be hurting or anything.
And then you asked her, how was he towards you? And then she responded, so gentle and loving. Kept tearing up, saying, I love you so much, Katie. I never was made love by him like that last night. And you said, that's good. Do you recall her sharing that with you?
I mean, if you say so, there.
What?
If you read it, yeah.
The whole piece right there.
May I see the other texts that have been introduced right here? Thank you. Your Honor, based on the foundation and the fact clearly that this witness has adopted these texts and has indicated they are from his phone to her phone, rather than just read them or offer them in evidence now as a substantive exhibit.
Objection.
Okay, the objection sustained.
Can I approach the side?
Yes.
further questions.
Good morning, Mr. Fannin Steele. So you were asked some questions about whether you recall assisting Ms. McLean and Dr. Tuerk in reconciling. Do you remember having conversations with them separately when they were separated about them reconciling?
Not really. I don't really remember, but
If either of them asked you to assist with that, would it make sense to you that that's something that you would do?
yeah, I might have. Yeah.
Okay. And during, you asked some questions about May of 2020. During that time period, do you recall that it was during the COVID pandemic?
Yes.
And you met with the police in the driveway, and I think you said on direct that that was in part due to the pandemic?
Yes.
Okay. Normally, would you have invited the police into your home?
Sure.
Okay. And I think you were asked about May 15th, meeting with the police in your driveway, and Mr. Reddington said that Katie was deceased at that point in time and had been found. Do you remember what day it was that Katie was found?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm not 100%.
All right. Do you know whether or not Katie was missing or whether or not she had been found at the pond on the time that you met with them?
I don't think she was found when I met with them.
I'm sorry, can you say that last part?
I don't think she was found when I met with them.
So the first time you met with the police, she was just missing?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And the police asked to see your cell phone?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you understand why they wanted to see your cell phone?
Yeah, from the text message that Harry sent me.
Okay. And you agreed to provide them with your cell phone, right?
Yes.
All right. And why do you think that you deleted text messages with Katie? What makes you believe that you did that?
I don't know.
Do you know if you did that?
I don't know when I did it.
Okay, but Mr. Reddington asked you a question about deleting text messages. Do you know that you deleted text messages?
I'm not sure if I did or I did later on, I think, because I did. I don't know.
Later on, meaning after you met with the police?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember that?
I think so, yeah.
All right, but what we're talking about is before May 15th, before you handed your phone to the police. Had you deleted text messages at that time? Do you know?
I don't recall when I.
You don't know. Okay. All right, may I approach, Your Honor?
The witness?
Yes.
Yes.
And do you recall speaking with Dr. Tuerk in April about reconciliation over text?
I might have, but I don't remember exactly.
May I approach?
You may.
I'm just going to ask you to read this to yourself, starting on page 19 and going to page 28. And does that refresh your memory about whether or not the defendant asked you to help communicate with Katie regarding reconciliation?
Yes.
Okay. And do you believe that you did do that?
Yep.
You said at some point you met Katie in her driveway or garage and she gave you some food. Would it make sense to you that that was cake?
Yeah, maybe. I don't remember what it was.
Okay. And then you were asked some questions about asking to see parts of Katie's body. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And did Katie agree to do that?
I don't remember.
Okay, may I approach?
You may.
I'm handing you 4 pages, starting 890, going to 894. Can you read the whole conversation? Does that refresh your memory?
Yep.
Did she agree?
No.
And you were asked some questions about a conversation about massaging her back. Do you recall those questions?
No.
Do you recall the questions that Mr. Reddington asked
Oh,
you?
yes.
Okay. And did Katie allow you to massage her back?
No.
And what did she say about why not? Do you recall?
No, I don't.
May I approach?
You may.
Showing you 4 pages, 830 to 834, 5 pages. You can look at that. Does that refresh your memory?
Yep.
What did she say about why not?
Because it says something about cheating.
She said that it would be cheating.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you were asked about a conversation where in June of 2019, where Katie said it was like a soap opera and that she'd been engaged in consensual sexual relationships with her husband, and then she said it was a soap opera. Do you remember those questions yesterday or Friday?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. And do you recall what that conversation was about other than that topic?
No.
May I approach?
You may.
Showing you pages 73 to 77. Can you read those to yourself, please? Does that refresh your memory about what that conversation was about?
Yeah.
What was it?
About a safe place for her kids so they could finish up school, their IEP.
That was what she was concerned about?
Yeah.
And why was she concerned about that?
Because her son had special needs, I think. He had IEP.
How did that relate to the conversation with Harry? May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm going to direct you to one particular spot.
So this one. Said, tell him not to keep telling you to leave. And she said, I have.
Okay.
And she said, I say that's crossing the line. I have no security, but it's more about the IEP and schools. I was available to get Sam into Landmark. Now he goes Monday.
All right. Did you talk with Katie about her concerns about not having somewhere to live?
I'm sorry, say again?
Did you talk with Katie about her concerns about not having somewhere to live?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure? Okay. Do you recall speaking with her about her concerns about the children in the Dover schools?
Yes.
All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
So you knew all about her concerns about her son because he had some special needs, and her concerns about having him stay in the town of Dover for their school, right?
Yeah.
And you knew that she wanted to stay in Harry's house with her 3 kids because she liked the school system, right?
Yes.
Yes. And while she was living with Harry, you knew from your conversations with her that went back almost a year, that in fact he was the one that would go to take the kid to the school for the IEP interviews. You knew that from her?
Okay, overruled. He can answer it.
Your Honor.
Can answer it, sir.
Okay. Did I know that he was willing to bring him?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And as far as the district attorney asking you a question about, apparently she had nowhere to stay other than Harry's house, you knew that her family had a place in Belmont. You knew that was empty, right?
I think that rings a bell.
Rings a bell?
Yeah, I think that sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar. All right. That's all I got.
Okay, you may step down, sir. Thank you.
Officer Ellis, please.
Take your time, watch your step, just raise your right hand, face the clerk, please.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. So we're gonna find this here under here.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, Judge. Could you do me a favor, just keep your voice up?
Sure. Good morning. Could you please state your name and spell your first and your last name for the record?
It's Joseph Ellis, Josephellis.
And how are you employed, sir?
I'm a Dedham police officer.
How long have you been employed by the Dedham Police?
A little over 15 years.
And what are your current responsibilities?
Currently, I'm a patrol officer, so basically handling calls for service and enforcing motor vehicle laws, that type of things.
So I'm going to direct your attention to May 15th of 2020. Were you working on that day?
I was.
And at a certain point, were you dispatched to the Residence Inn?
I was.
What time was that?
I don't remember exactly what time.
Do you remember it being in the morning?
In the morning, yeah.
Okay. If I said 10:45 approximately, would that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. And did you go alone or with anybody else?
I was also with Officer Katie.
Okay. And were you in the same cruiser or in separate cruisers?
Separate cruisers.
And was that a marked cruiser?
Correct.
And how were you dressed that day?
In a full police uniform.
And when you got to the Residence Inn, who did you speak with?
Someone at the front desk. I don't recall the name.
Somebody who worked for the hotel?
Correct.
Okay. And what was your purpose in going to the Residence Inn?
It was for a well-being check of a Kathleen McLean.
And can you explain what a well-being check is?
Generally, like a family member or a friend will call the police to have us get in touch with a person they haven't been able to contact or because they feel there's something out of the norm with them.
And is that something that you do typically?
It's pretty typical, yes.
Okay. And so on this day, what, if anything, did you do?
We went to the Residence Inn, spoke with the clerk at the front desk, and were directed to a hotel room upstairs.
And did you go upstairs to the hotel room?
Correct.
And then what did you do?
We opened the door.
How did you get the door open?
There was someone, a staff member up there that had a key card that opened the door.
Okay. And before opening the door, did you knock on the door?
Yes, we knocked and announced Dedham Police.
And when you say announced, what do you mean by that?
Kind of loudly, say Dedham Police, just so could get the attention of the person inside.
Louder than we're speaking right now?
Correct.
And would you knock loudly?
Knock loudly, yes.
Okay. One time or more than one time?
Several times.
All right. And did anyone open the door for you?
Nobody opened the door, no.
Okay. So then what happened?
After getting no response, we proceeded to open the door with the key card.
And what did you see when you looked into the room?
There was a man laying in the bed.
Okay. And can you describe the man?
He was dressed in jeans and a shirt and wasn't answering to us.
Okay. Did you enter the room?
We did, yes.
And when you entered the room, were you speaking to the man in the bed?
We tried to.
What were you saying?
Ask him if he was okay.
And did you get a response?
No.
Okay. Can you describe his demeanor at that point in time?
Kind of moaning, eyes were pretty much closed, just kind of unresponsive.
Okay. And do you see that person here in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you please point him out and identify an article of his clothing?
He's over at the defense table there wearing a blue tie and suit.
Your Honor, may the record reflect identification.
Yes.
And so what happened next?
At that point, based on the gentleman's condition, we called for an ambulance.
Okay. And did you do anything while you were waiting for the ambulance?
Kind of just looked around the hotel room to see if there was, we were also looking for Mrs. McLean, but also just kind of seeing what was going on.
Okay. Was Mrs. McLean there?
No.
All right. And was there anyone else in the room?
No.
Okay. So what else did you see at that point in time?
On the nightstand next to the bed, there was a bottle of whiskey or scotch, and there was a small table that had a kitchen knife on it. Appeared to be some blood on the knife and some bloody tissues.
Okay. Did you touch any of those items?
I did not.
Okay. Was there anything else that you observed at that point in time?
No, nothing.
Okay. And so what, if anything, did you do next?
I think we waited for the ambulance to get there. They started treating him, and I think at some point I called for a detective to respond.
Okay. And by treating him, what do you mean by that?
The EMTs they're kind of checking his body to see if there's any wounds or what may have caused his condition.
Okay. And did you see anything at that point?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Were you able to make any observations while they were checking his body?
He had some kind of superficial cuts on his arms, and they had rolled up his jeans. He had cuts on his jeans. On his legs.
Okay. Were you able to see any treatment in particular that they performed?
Not really, no.
Okay. Did they provide any medicine to the defendant?
I believe they gave him Narcan.
Okay. And what is that?
It's kind of reverses the effects of an opioid overdose.
Okay. And is that pretty standard that you would do that, or the ambulance would do that when you find people that are unresponsive?
Yeah, when there's a circumstance, kind of when you're not sure about what's causing a condition, you usually give Narcan just in case.
Okay. And did that have any effect on the defendant?
It did not.
And so what happened with the defendant at that point in time?
I believe he was placed on the stretcher and transported to the hospital.
Okay. Do you know which hospital?
I don't recall. No.
And what, if anything, happened next?
I think we went out to the parking lot because we were told there were two.
You went to the parking lot?
Yes.
And what were you going to do in the parking lot?
We were told that two vehicles were in the lot.
And what were the vehicles that were in the lot?
They said one belonged to Miss McLean and one to Mr. Tuerk.
Okay. And did you see those vehicles?
I did.
All right. And did you speak with anyone in the parking lot?
I was approached by a male party, yes.
And did the male party identify himself?
Yes, he said Stephen Rocca.
Okay. And did you have a conversation with him?
Yes.
All right. And what, if anything else, did you do?
Spoke with him, and then that was basically it at the hotel.
At the hotel. Okay. And so then where, if anywhere, did you go?
I went back to the police station to start doing my report.
Okay. And after completing your report, what, if anything, did you do?
I responded back to the residence inn because the state police K-9 unit was there to search the area.
Okay. And what area did the state police K-9 unit search?
So like around the perimeter of the hotel, there's kind of a fenced area. They did that along that area, the perimeter.
Okay. And what, if anything else, did you do?
At that point, there was nothing at the hotel, so I went back to the police station to make some phone calls.
Okay. And who were you speaking with at the police station?
There was a Kurt and a Vanessa.
Okay. And did you talk with them on the phone or in person?
On the phone.
All right. And is there anything else that you did after speaking with Vanessa and Kurt?
No.
Okay. Do you recall speaking with Medfield Police at any point in time?
Oh, yes, I did. Just because there was a ping on Miss McLean's phone, and it was tracking in that area in Medfield.
Okay, and what's a ping?
So basically, you would call a cell phone provider and get a location of a person's cell phone.
And when are you able to do that? In what circumstances?
Usually just emergency circumstances or missing persons, that type of stuff.
Okay, and so what was the point of calling the Medfield Police?
Just because Miss McLean was unable to be located.
And what was happening in Medfield?
Her phone was in that area.
Okay, so it was your understanding that her phone was pinging within the town of Medfield?
Yes.
And so were you asking them to assist you?
Yes, I gave them the location that it was possibly pinging, and they were going to search the area.
Okay, and the ping, does it give you an exact location, or what kind of information do you
get? It usually gives like a certain area in meters. It could be a big area or a small area, depending.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Just two questions, actually. Counsel had asked you about the Narcan. What exactly is Narcan? Is that a substance that if somebody's using drugs and they're in an overdose, it helps them?
It usually reverses the effects of an opioid overdose, yes.
It refreshes the effects? What does that mean?
Reverses.
Reverses, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I misunderstood you. And it had no effect on Harry at that point, correct?
Correct.
Which would indicate that there's nothing to do with drugs. Extreme alcohol, possibly, but not.
Nothing to do with an opioid.
Okay. And as it relates to the vehicles, you indicated something to the jury in response to the district attorney's question about the cars that were in the parking lot, one of which was owned by Ms. McLean?
I don't know who it was owned by, but I was told that she operated it.
Right. Okay. So you don't know that both vehicles were in fact owned by Harry and that she was driving them. You didn't know that.
I didn't know which person owned them. No.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Nothing further.
Okay, you may step down, sir. Thank you.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth would call Stephen Rocca.
Just take your time, just watch your step, please, okay? And if you're gonna raise your right hand, face a click over here on the right-hand side, please.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Your Honor, may I inquire?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please state your full name, spelling your last name for the record?
Stephen Rocca, R-O-C-C-A,
How old are you?
56,
What's your date of birth?
7/16/1968.
Do you work?
Yes.
What do you do for work?
Self-employed carpenter.
How long have you been doing that?
Pretty much my whole life.
Where do you live?
I live at 385 Newton Street, Waltham, Mass.
Who do you live with?
My son, Sam.
Are you currently married?
No.
Have you ever been married?
Yes.
To who?
Kathleen
And what's Kathleen's last name?
McLean.
When did you meet her?
I met her back in high school.
Did you have any children together?
Yes, 3.
What are their names?
Sophia.
And what's Sophia's date of birth?
Sophia's date of birth is 7/16/2002.
And your next child?
Mary Grace.
Does she go by Grace?
Yes.
And what's Grace's date of birth?
12/29/03.
And you said that you lived with your son, Sam?
Yes.
And was that Katie's son as well?
Yes.
And what's Sam's date of birth?
Sam's date of birth is February 7th, 2007.
When did your marriage to Katie end?
2011.
Where did Katie live after your marriage ended?
With her mom.
What town was that in?
Waltham.
Where did your kids live at that time?
With her.
How often did you communicate with Katie after your marriage ended?
Daily.
How often would you see her?
Weekly.
And would that be to exchange the children?
Yes.
Turning to the beginning of 2020, where were Katie and your children living?
Tell me the date again, please.
The beginning of 2020.
I believe she was living in Sudbury.
At some point, did that change?
Yes.
Where did she move to?
I believe to Dover.
And who was living with her in Dover?
My 3 children, Harry's 2 children, and Harry.
And you say Harry, who do you mean?
Mr. Tuerk there?
And you see him in the courtroom?
Yes, I do.
Can you please identify him by an article of clothing that he's
Striped
wearing?
blue tie.
I'm sorry?
A striped blue tie.
Your Honor, could the record please reflect identification?
Yes.
When did you meet the defendant?
Probably 2020.
Would you communicate with him separately from Katie?
Never.
How often did you see him?
Maybe when I picked the children up. I hardly ever had any contact with him.
In February of 2020, were you aware that the defendant was no longer living in Dover with Katie and your children?
Yes,
How did you know that?
Katie told me.
Where was he living, if you know?
Not sure.
How often were you communicating with Katie at that point?
Daily.
And how would you most often communicate with Katie?
Text message.
Would you ever speak with her on the phone as well?
Times.
How often did you go to the house after the defendant left?
Once a week. Weekends.
After COVID hit in March of 2020, how often did you communicate with Katie?
Same, daily.
How often would you see the kids once the world shut down for COVID?
I didn't.
How long did you go without seeing your children?
Probably about 3 weeks.
Turning to April 17th of 2020, did Katie discuss the possibility of reconciling with the defendant with you?
Yes.
Did Katie text you an email from the defendant's attorney that you read?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yeah, let me just see counsel at sidebar, please.
Do you recall the substance of that email?
Not accurate enough to go off my top of my head, no.
Would seeing a copy of your text message refresh your recollection?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Is your memory refreshed?
Yeah.
And what was the substance of that email?
She was saying, he was saying that he wants to get back into the relationship and he's willing to go to.
I'm just going to stop you right there. So when you say he, who do you mean?
Harry.
Okay. And what's the date on that email?
So this is like triple level hearsay. No objection.
Is that an objection?
Yes, it is. I apologize.
All right, rephrase, sustain. Rephrase the question, please.
Okay. And could you just tell me what the date on that email is?
Friday, April 17th, 2020.
And that's an email that Katie sent to you. It's a screenshot, is that correct?
Screenshot, correct.
And after you read that email, did you receive another text message from Katie, or did you have a conversation with her regarding the substance of that email?
I don't remember.
Do you remember discussing the email with Katie?
Yes.
Do you remember discussing the reconciliation with Katie?
Yes.
And what were her feelings on reconciling with the defendant in April of 2020?
Overruled. Answer?
Yes, please.
She wanted to get back together so the children have a stable place to be in.
On May 8th of 2020, did the defendant return from Florida?
Yes.
What was your understanding of why he was coming back?
Sustained in that form.
How did he get back from Florida?
He drove.
Did you have any part in that?
Yes, I drove Katie to New York and dropped her off, and she drove back with him.
Who else was in the car when you drove Katie to New York?
My 3 children.
When you dropped Katie off in New York, did you see the defendant?
Yes.
And at that point, is it your understanding that Katie and the defendant continued to drive back to Massachusetts from New York?
Yes.
Where did he stay when he got back, if you know?
Don't know.
Prior to the defendant coming back to Massachusetts on May 8th of 2020, did you have any conversations with Katie regarding where the defendant would stay when he returned to Massachusetts?
Overruled.
She asked me if he could stay at, I have a 2-family apartment. She asked me if he could stay there. I said it was rented and he couldn't.
Were there any other conversations you had about where the defendant could stay once he returned to Massachusetts in May of 2020?
Overruled.
One of her possibilities was staying at her mother's condo in Belmont.
So Katie was actively looking.
That was empty.
That was empty. I'm sorry to interrupt. So Katie was actively looking for places for the defendant to stay.
Yes.
Turning your attention to May 15th of 2020, do you remember that day?
Say the date again, please.
May 15th of 2020?
Yes, I do.
What happened on that day?
I believe I got a phone call, phone call from one of her friends.
Do you remember that friend's name?
No, I don't.
As a result of that phone call, what did you do?
I called her phone several times. I called the children. And then I called that hotel that I received the name from that friend.
Okay. When you say that you called her cell phone several times, who do you mean?
Katie's cell phone.
Did you receive any answer?
No answer.
You stated that you contacted your children?
Yes.
Were you able to speak with them?
Yes, I did.
You also stated that you contacted the hotel?
Yes, I did.
Did you speak with somebody at the hotel?
Yes, I did.
After making all of those phone calls, what did you do?
I drove to that hotel.
What happened when you got to the hotel?
I saw an ambulance taking Harry out on a stretcher.
Then what did you do?
I drove to Dover to where my children were.
Did you enter the house?
Yes, I did.
Where did you go in the house?
Went into the kitchen and then up to the kids' rooms.
Who was in the house when you entered the house?
My 3 children.
Where were they located when you first went into the house, if you can remember?
I don't remember where they were. I yelled out to them and they came to me.
You stated that you went up to their bedrooms?
Yes.
Did you make any observations of the floor when you were in the house on May 15th of 2020?
Yes, I saw some black dots that were on the floor that looked weird.
Had you seen them before when you had been in the house?
Never.
Ms. Gilman, could you please place Exhibit 195 on the screen? Looking at Exhibit 195, can you please explain to the jurors what those are?
I don't know what they were. They were just black dots that were in a pattern on her wooden floor that was in the same pattern every so many inches or feet or wherever they were.
So when you say the same pattern, do you mean those
2 dots.
2 dots next to each other?
Yeah, then it went a blank space, another 2 dots, a blank space, another 2 dots.
And where did you see these black dots?
Throughout the kitchen floor.
Anywhere else in the home?
If you go into their kitchen floor, their foyer, up to where the stairs were.
Did you see them in the upstairs hallway?
I didn't see them upstairs. I didn't remember seeing them upstairs.
So the first time you saw these black dots was on May 15th of 2020 when you entered the kitchen?
Mm-hmm.
And they continued as you were walking up the stairs to your children's bedrooms?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Soroka, District Attorney asked you a question about Harry living somewhere, and you mentioned something about Belmont, right?
Excuse me?
You mentioned something about her empty place in Belmont.
Yes, I did.
Okay. And in fact, sir, you had exchanged text messages with her, did you not?
Yes, I did.
And she told you that Harry was coming back from Florida at the end of the week, back in May of 2020, right?
Yes, she did.
She indicated that he needed a place to quarantine for 2 weeks, right?
Yes, she did.
She indicated that she wanted him to go to her mom's empty place in Belmont, but my family's being hard about it, is what she told you, right?
Don't remember exactly what she said, but she was asking about staying there.
Okay, but her family was being hard about it. You know, she told you that much.
Yes.
Didn't want her to, yes?
Yes.
Okay. And she said, I don't understand why, because the place is empty, right?
Yes.
A couple of times said, I don't understand what the problem is. So when, like a timeline, did you get divorced from Miss McLean?
I got divorced in 2017.
Okay. And then she was remarried again, correct?
I believe so.
You believe so?
I'd never seen it. Yes.
There's a guy by the name of Chris Foley, right?
Yes.
Do you remember when she married Chris Foley?
No.
Did your 3 children live with her and Chris Foley?
Yes.
And how long were your children living with her and Chris Foley?
I don't know.
Was it more than a year?
Yes.
And then she got divorced from Chris Foley, correct?
Yes.
And she, to your observation, her state of mind was that she didn't get along very well with Chris Foley, correct?
Sustained.
So when was it? Because you told the jury that it was 2020 that you knew that she and her children were living with Harry, right? 2020, right?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. If I suggest to you, sir, that in fact it was 2017 that Harry and Miss McLean met online, and it was in March of 2018 that Kathleen and your 3 children moved into Harry's home. March of 2018. 2 years before you're telling this jury you knew that he was taking care of them in his house.
Their dates, I don't know.
Of course, that's understandable. So let me ask it like this. Do you recall that your 3 children, for a chunk of time, from March of 2018 until, let's say, December of 2019, were living in Dover, in Harry's house with Harry?
I don't know the exact dates she moved.
Understandable, and you don't have to know the exact dates. I just want to make sure that it's understood that well prior to 2020, you knew that your children and Miss McLean were living with her boyfriend, Harry.
Yes.
No. Yes.
Yes.
And you didn't see them during that period of time either, did you?
Objection.
Sustained in that form.
Can I approach that, Bob?
Sustained in the form.
All right, I'll try another one. When Harry had his house that your ex-wife was living in with your 3 children, for that period of time, 2019 up until 2000, December of 19, when you got married, you had not visited with your children.
Yes, I have.
Sorry?
Yes, I do. Yes, I did.
When did you visit with them?
I went to their house and picked them up and brought them to my house.
Went to what house?
The house that she was living in Dover.
So, and you weren't allowed in the house, you had to park out on the street,
At a park in the street, yes, sir.
All right, one second. Sustained. Rephrase it, please, and just wait for an objection.
Sorry, sir.
Thank you. Can you ask the question again, Mr. Reddington, please?
You had to park out in the street, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you'd park out in the street to pick up your kids. And would you agree with me, sir, that before the pandemic, shall we say, that you and Ms. McLean were not getting along? Isn't that right?
Sustained.
Would you suggest, sir, that you were angry because Ms. McLean was allowing Chris? She's objecting.
Objection.
All right, ask the question. Don't answer until there's an objection, sir.
Well, you were upset that she was allowing Chris Foley to stay in Harry's house, weren't you, during the pandemic?
Okay, that's sustained.
She didn't. Okay. So during this period of time, sir, during the pandemic, you would agree with me that you had issues, if you will, with Kathleen McLean, correct?
Objection.
Overall, just a yes or no.
Is that right?
Repeat the question?
Yeah, you had issues with Ms. McLean during that period of time that your children was living with Harry, right?
No.
Can you just
No?
specify the, Mr. Reddington, can you specify the dates, please?
The actual dates, okay?
The dates that you're referring to when you say period of time.
So in December of 19, they get married, right?
Yeah.
You knew they got married.
Yes.
And she told you they got married, right?
Yes.
And you didn't like that, did you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Were you paying child support?
Yes.
Objection.
Sustained.
Can I push that back?
Yes.
So you knew after they got married, you knew prior to the time they got married, that your children were living in that house with Ms. McLean and Harry Tuerk, right?
Yes.
Yes. And you knew that, for example, as counsel has already elicited or brought out, that your son Sam has certain issues that require IEPs in the school and things of that nature, right?
Yes.
A lot of intensive attention, correct?
Yes.
You never went to one meeting in the school at all regarding your son's condition, did you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you know, sir, that Harry would go to the meetings for your son?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you ever take your kid out in a car, your daughter, and teach her how to drive a car?
Objection.
Sustained.
You know that you did?
Objection.
Sustained.
How old were they at the time?
Sustained, sir.
Objection.
The objection's sustained. You don't answer that.
So, the police talk with you, and they, at some point, did they ask you for your phone so they could see if you had text messages with Kathleen McLean?
No, sir.
Did they ever even look at your phone?
No.
Now, you knew that in December of 2019 that Harry and Ms. McLean had gotten married, right? Or thereabouts.
Thereabouts, yes.
And they were married for about 4 months, 5 months, right?
I guess so.
And at some point they got divorced, right? Or they were in the process of trying to get divorced, right?
I guess so.
You guess so. During that period of time, sir, did you have occasion to go, when he's out of the house, you knew he was out of the house at some point, right?
Yes, I did.
You knew that he had, she got a restraining order against him and he had to leave his home in February 2020, right?
Yes.
Now, would you agree with me, sir, that your relationship was strained using that term? He's objecting.
Objection.
Ask the question. Ask the question. Wait 1 second.
Okay? That your relationship with Harry Tuerk as the husband of Ms. McLean was strained. Would you agree with that, sir?
Objection.
The objection is sustained.
Kathleen McLean called the police on you on a number of times.
Objection.
Sustained.
I want to approach the side by.
Sustained. So you are to disregard. At 11:30, we'll go to about 1. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll wait for them to direct us. Jurors exiting, all rise. Jurors, please leave your notebooks in the chairs. Follow me, please.
you all set? Want to wait a minute? Okay. Okay. So the issue is post-2020, post-January of 2020. That's the time period we're talking about?
No, the issue, Your Honor, would be May 4th of 2019, October 29th of 2019, May 5 of 2019, June 14th of 2019, and yeah, so that would be the time frame.
What is the proffer? What are you seeking to elicit from this witness? And he stepped out? Mr.
The
Laughlin?
proffer is the bias that...
1 second. Has he stepped out?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
The proffer, Your Honor, is the bias that clearly I'm entitled to explore with this witness as it relates to, for example, May 4th of 2019, the Dover Police Department received a phone call. Kathleen McLean found a threatening letter on the front door of her and Ingolf Tuerk, and they obtained the letter. Kathleen McLean was very scared, and Kathleen McLean indicated that she was concerned for her safety as she had issues in her past where her house was broken into, said that her ex-husband, she had an ex-husband, meaning the cop, asked if this could be him. They both stated no. Kathleen asked if we could fingerprint the document. I explained the surface, said there was any alarms in the video surveillance. They answered that they're going to be getting video surveillance. In May 5 of 2019,
So
Kathleen...
that was one incident.
That's the first incident I just wanted to reference to the court where they were...
Let's go through the incidents one at a time. Ms. McLaughlin?
Your Honor, the May 4th incident that he's talking about, specifically in the police report, stated, she stated that she had an ex-husband, so I asked if this could be him, and they both stated no, meaning the victim and the defendant. So I don't know how that's relevant, considering they both stated that it could not be. Furthermore, they had the letter fingerprinted, and there were no fingerprints found on it, and he was never considered a suspect in that matter. So I don't believe it's relevant at all.
So
why is that relevant, Mr. Reddington?
So my point, Your Honor, is that I'm not looking to suggest that Mr. Rocha is the one that wrote the note or left the note, but I want to show their state of mind that both Kathleen and Harry were obviously of heightened awareness, if you will, and were in fear, and were concerned enough that she called the police. That's it, on that May 4th.
There's no indication that she called the police with respect to your client, correct?
No, my client was one of the ones that was a victim.
So why is it relevant?
Because it shows their state of mind, that they were concerned that there was a note that had been left on their door.
How does it have anything to do with this witness?
So that the objection to that incident is sustained.
May 5 of 2019. They take a report from a resident on suspicious activity. Resident...
This is, when you say they, you're talking about the Dover Police?
I'm looking at the police department. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. Dover Police Department, on May 5 of 2019, Detective Chason, C-H-A-I-S-S-O-N, took a report regarding the fact that Mr. Rocha had sent a text to Kathleen McLean indicating that he, Rocha, knew that Tuerk has handguns, whatever that has to do with anything. He had a license to carry, license was valid, and he had firearms that he had purchased legitimately and were kept in a gun safe under lock and key. They were very concerned over the fact that meaning Rocha, would send this text. McLean states that Rocha has many law enforcement connections and a tendency of getting out of serious trouble in the past. She then made reference to the fact that she's been a victim of domestic violence from Mr. Rocha, which I understand has been excluded by you. I can't get into that, and I would not attempt to. That he's been the subject of civil restraining orders in 2011, 2013. I understand that's been excluded. I won't get into that. It appears the last order, this is the police report, last order expired in 2015. Detective Chason asked McLean if she was in fear at this time. At that point, she was not in fear. They advised she could go to Dedham District Court, contact the department at any time she felt in fear. The main concern is how Rocha was basically stalking them and why he was getting access to information that would normally not be subject to public purview.
So this is a text sent by whom?
No, Ms. McLean had reached out to the police because they were concerned. I'm sorry, a text sent by Roca to McLean and Harry regarding his purchase of handguns, that he knew that he had handguns, is what it says.
This is a text that Mr. Roca sent to
Yes.
Katie McLean?
To Kate McLean, and she was concerned about that, yep. I don't know why the guy's sending her a text.
Your Honor, there is no text, first of all, on the police report or any that we have found. It is a phone call that Ms. McLean made to the Dover police.
Could I respectfully interrupt? I apologize to my sister. It says right in the police report, received a text from her ex-husband, Stephen Roca.
But we don't have the text.
I don't care you have the text, it's still a police
Let her
report.
finish, Mr. Reddington.
It is a conversation that Ms. McLean had with the Dover Police Department stating that the defendant had purchased handguns from the Bass Pro Shop and that she had received a text message from the witness, Mr. Roca, stating he has handguns or asking something about the handguns, and they wanted to know how the witness, Mr. Roca, would be able to get that information, and that was the concern. I don't think this is relevant. I also think it's opening a door to the defendant owning guns. There was a 209A restraining order that we heard about. Sergeant Wilcox was the one who testified about the restraining order. The Commonwealth did not bring in that the Dover police confiscated multiple guns in February of 2020, and that the defendant no longer had access to guns on May 15th of 2020 when he strangled his wife. So, Your Honor, I think we're getting into a situation where we're going to be eliciting testimony that the defendant had access to handguns in May of 2019, then they were confiscated in February of 2020 when the restraining order was issued, and he never received them back. I'm not sure how Mr. Roca getting the information about the defendant having handguns is relevant to any of the issues in this case, and I would ask that you not allow that testimony.
So no, my objection.
Okay, the objection is noted. That's, the objection is sustained and the objection is noted.
June 14th, 2019, Kathleen McLean called the police in Dover Police Department that she had concerns about Mr. Roca, that he was acting erratically, that he was basically causing her significant concern, that he was challenging the custody of their children. And she explained that she had sole custody, and then, of course, she gets into his being physically abusive to her, which I understand I can't get into, the restraining orders, which I won't get into. While on the phone with Roca, while on the phone with her, Roca called the police department looking to speak to an officer. Roca indicated that he was upset because he wanted to go see his children. She didn't want him to see the children. He was supposed to stay away. He didn't stay away. Roca ended up, or they saw, 1752, 522, Sergeant Menace was checking the neighborhood, observed the vehicle in the area of the house, registered to John Roca, whoever that is. He then made contact with the operator, who identified as Stephen Roca. At the same time, Kathleen again called the station to report that Stephen was outside her house and that she was obviously concerned. June 14th, 2019, at 5:05, she calls the station, states that Roca is coming to her house. She obviously was concerned about him coming to the house. The police saw the vehicle there. They pull up behind Roca, argue with Roca about he's there to pick up his children. They have this argument. They have a problem in that regard. And then Roca did not agree with the interpretation and ultimately left the area. Shows his bias.
His bias because he was going to pick up his children? I'm not sure.
It shows his bias because every time the guy moves, Kathleen McLean's calling up the police and lying about the guy or exaggerating about the guy or trying to get orders against him.
Ms. McLaughlin.
Your Honor, this is exactly the type of information that the Commonwealth's motion in limine dealt with. It was all bad acts. There was no time frame on it regarding probate court matters, civil matters, anything having to do with the witness and the alleged victim, and it has no relevance into the matter at issue, which is whether or not the defendant killed his wife.
All right, so it's sustained with respect to any specifics about the calls to the police department, et cetera. If you want to elicit from him that he would sometimes go and pick up his kids and there would be issues in a general sense, you can elicit that, but nothing further than that.
What does that mean? What am I supposed to ask him about? What's a general sense? The fact that the guy has, the fact that she calls the police on him is what's causing, obviously, an inference that he would have an issue with either her or with him. It goes to his bias. But if you're letting me ask him in a general way, I don't know what that means. I have to ask him.
And ask him if there were issues sometimes when he went to pick up his kids and leave it at that. I don't see why the specifics are relevant and why police involvement is relevant. You asked him where would he go pick up his kids for different periods of time. He answered the Dover house. So to the extent you want to generally elicit that there was some issues, you may.
All right, no, my objection to your ruling, and I'll ask him that and try to adhere to the court's limitations. I'd like to revisit the issue that I would try to get into evidence that was excluded by Your Honor as it relates to the argument that they had in 2020 where Roca was upset at the fact that Chris Foley, the ex-husband, had been hanging out at Harry's Dover house, and I'm quoting from a text, "I was not yelling at you. The concern in my voice is that it's being taken. I'm yelling. It's not yelling. It's concern. If I find out that Chris is at your house again, I'm going to call Debbie from DSS and explain the situation. You're not putting the children's safety first and having him come to your house and exposing them again. That's why the governor has a stay-at-home shutdown order, and they're not going to go to school order, I believe is what it means. And I would have figured you would have got that. I think that, again, goes to the issue of his state of mind and bias as it relates to, and also showing that this guy, Chris Foley, had been in the house as well. Well, Harry's not there.
I don't know what relevance that has to do with.
Of course not.
Okay, sustained. That is excluded. Anything else at this time?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
And,
Not for me. I got enough. Thank you.
all right, why don't we take no more than 10 minutes, okay? And we'll go to 1 o'clock today.
All right. We'll stand in recess till about
All right, can I see counsel at sidebar, please? Including Mr. Reddington? You want to get the witness back, or should we wait?
Sure, can we get the witness?
Do you mind waiting until
Don't.
the jury
Nope.
comes in and then recalling the witness?
Sure.
Just had an issue in another trial.
Okay. So,
I'm sorry? Yes. Not a super long one, but yes.
counsel, while we're waiting, we can check on the 7th, 8th, and 9th about potentially using those as full days.
Yes, Your Honor.
7th, 8th, and 9th?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Works for the Commonwealth as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Jurors entering will arise.
It's okay, you're fine.
Can we recall the witness, please?
Sure. Keep your voice up for me, please. Thank you.
As it stands now, Your Honor, then I have no further questions for this witness.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, you may step down, sir. Thank you.
You got it okay? Thank you.
Detective Gonski, please.
Can you say the last name again, please?
Gonski, Gonski.
Chief?
Yes, sir. Just watch your step. You're going to raise your right hand, face the clerk on the right. Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
Just going to keep your voice up, okay?
Sure.
Great, thank you.
All right, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. Could you please state your name and spell your first and last name?
Deborah Gonski, DeborahGonski,
And how are you employed?
with the Dedham Police Department,
How long have you been with the Dedham Police Department?
approximately 13 and a half years.
And what's your current rank?
Detective,
How long have you been a detective?
10 years.
And in connection with being a detective, what are your responsibilities?
Any incidents that require further investigation?
Directing your attention to May 15th of 2020, did you have the opportunity to respond to the Residence Inn in Dedham?
Yes, I did.
And when you first arrived at the Residence Inn, where did you go?
Initially, I was in the parking lot.
Okay. And who did you speak with, if anyone, in the parking lot?
I spoke to Officer Ellis and Mr. Stephen Roca.
And about how long did you spend in the parking lot?
Just a few minutes.
Do you know about what time it was?
10:42 a.m.
And when you met with Mr. Rocca, did he show you anything?
He did. He showed me a text message.
Okay. May I approach?
You may.
I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 1. You just look at that first message on there.
Yes,
Do you recognize that text message?
I do.
What is that?
That's the text message that Mr. Roca displayed to me on his cell phone.
All right, you can just close that, thanks. And when you were in the parking lot, was Dr. Tuerk there?
He was already in the ambulance at that time.
Okay. And so what, if anything, did you do next?
I went up to room 228 with Officer Ellis and Officer Katie.
And when you went to room 228, generally, what did you see?
So I reviewed the room as it was. I photographed the room to document as it was, how we found it. I did note there was a small kitchen table in the kitchenette that had several items on top of it.
Okay. And you said that you took photographs yourself?
Yes, I did.
Okay. If I could move through those at this time, Your Honor?
Yes.
Can I just shut off the lights?
Yes.
I'll get it.
These are already marked.
These are already marked into evidence. If we could start with Exhibit 5, please, Ms. Gilman. Do you recognize what's in Exhibit 5?
Yes, this is the hotel room from the exterior.
All right. And is that a photograph that you took?
Yes, it is.
All right. And could I have Exhibit 6, please? And do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
And what is this?
This is the kitchen table.
Okay. And there's a syringe on that table. Did you learn that people treating from Fallon Ambulance treating Dr. Tuerk had used syringes?
They did not.
Did they administer Narcan?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. And exhibit number 7, please. What's contained in that photograph?
So there is, this is low-dose aspirin that had been dumped out by the paramedics just to confirm that's what was in the bottle was what was supposed to be. And then there's a kitchen knife with a small amount of dried blood on the tip.
Okay, and could we have exhibit number 8, please? And what is that?
Apple iPhone belonging to Mr. Tuerk.
Okay. And did you do anything in connection with the phone that's shown in exhibit number 8?
I seized the phone.
Okay. And can we have exhibit number 9, please? What can be seen in exhibit number 9?
This is the desk area in the room, and there's just some miscellaneous items on there.
Okay. Exhibit number 10, please. What's in exhibit number 10?
This is the bed.
And is this how the bed appeared when you were in room 228 on the 15th?
Yes.
Okay. Could we have exhibit number 12? And what's contained in exhibit number 12?
This is the nightstand to the right of the bed. There's some water, some miscellaneous items, and a half-empty bottle of, I believe it was scotch.
Okay. And can we have exhibit number 13, please? And what's contained in exhibit 13?
So this is a photo from the parking lot. This is Mr. Tuerk's vehicle.
Okay, and did you observe this vehicle parked in this manner on May 15th?
Yes, I did.
Okay, could we have exhibit 14, please? And what photograph is this?
This is the same vehicle from the rear depicting the license plate.
Could we have exhibit 15, please? And what is this?
The same vehicle from the driver's side.
Could we have exhibit 16? And what is contained in exhibit 16?
This is Miss McLean's Jeep Wrangler.
And is this parked in the manner in which you observed it on the 15th?
Yes, it is.
Right, could we have exhibit 17, please? What's contained in exhibit 17?
This is Miss McLean's Jeep Wrangler from the rear depicting the license plate.
Okay. Could we have exhibit 18, please? What is contained in exhibit 18?
This is Miss McLean's Jeep Wrangler from the driver's side.
And could we have exhibit 19, please? And what's contained in exhibit 19?
This is Miss McLean's Jeep Wrangler from the front.
Okay, could we have exhibit 20, please? What's contained in exhibit 20?
This is the passenger side of Miss McLean's Jeep Wrangler.
And what can be seen in that?
There's a kitchen steak knife with a black handle and an empty bottle of scotch.
So at the point that you took this photograph, where were you positioned, or how were you positioned?
I was standing outside of the passenger side of the vehicle. Both the windows had been left down and the items were in plain view.
And did you ever open the doors when you first responded to the residents in the morning of the 15th?
No.
Okay. Could I have the lights back on, please? When you were at the Residence Inn, what, if anything, did you do with regard to surveillance at the hotel?
I went down to the front desk and I spoke to the front desk supervisor, George Cummins. He was able to pull up surveillance video from May 8th at the time that Mr. Tuerk had checked into the hotel initially. He utilized that image to see what Mr. Tuerk looks like, and I had asked him if he could begin reviewing surveillance video from May 15th and from the day prior, May 14th, to attempt to gather Mr. Tuerk's whereabouts.
Okay. And was it your understanding that more video was going to be provided to investigators?
Yes.
Okay. Based on the information that you obtained and what you saw in the room, what, if anything, did you do?
I asked Officer Ellis if he can contact our dispatch and have our dispatch center ping Miss McLean's cell phone.
And what was the purpose of that?
The purpose is to locate the phone and thus hopefully locate Miss McLean.
Okay. And under what circumstances would you request a ping?
For an exigent circumstance, so an emergency circumstance.
Okay. And what, if anything else, did you do?
I responded back to the station, and at that time I requested that our dispatch locate a K-9 unit to respond up to the residence inn to meet Officer Ellis to search the area around the hotel.
Okay. And what, if anything else, did you do?
I took a phone call from Miss McLean's sister, Beth Mellinson.
And what, if anything else, did you do?
I responded to the Norwood Hospital at approximately 2:15 p.m. with Detective Mahoney. We met at the time Sergeant Fanning, now Lieutenant Fanning.
And what, where was Lieutenant Fanning or Sergeant Fanning, what law enforcement agency was he from?
With the Massachusetts State Police, the investigative unit out of the District Attorney's Office.
And why'd you go to Norwood Hospital?
To follow up with Mr. Tuerk's status.
Okay. Did you take any items with you to Norwood Hospital?
I took the cell phone with me.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you do with that?
The phone was ultimately turned over to Lieutenant Fanning.
Okay. And were you able to go into Norwood Hospital on the 15th?
Ultimately, we were.
Okay. And who, if anyone, did you speak with on the 15th?
We met with Alish Wilkies, one of the directors from the hospital.
Okay. And did you meet with anybody else?
We met with a Matthew Lowry and a Tara Daub.
Okay. And anybody else?
Lieutenant Fanning, Detective Mahoney. We met in the family waiting room.
Okay. And were you able to meet with Mr. Tuerk or Dr. Tuerk on that day?
No.
Okay. And so after going to Norwood Hospital, where, if anywhere, did you go?
I responded to the area of 29 Valley Road, along with Detective Quigley, also from our department, to assist with a neighborhood canvass around Mr. Tuerk's residence.
And what's a canvass?
We checked the area for any possible surveillance video or doorbells with video capability, spoke to some of the residents to see if they had witnessed anything, heard anything.
And what was the purpose of that?
To see if there was any witnesses to anything that had occurred, possibly near or at the residence.
Okay. And about how long did you spend in Dover?
A couple hours.
Okay. Directing your attention to Saturday, May 16th. What, if anything, happened on that day?
I contacted Ms. Wilkies at 8 a.m. for a status update on Mr. Tuerk.
Okay. And after speaking with Ms. Wilkie, what, if anything, did you do?
I responded to Norwood Hospital at approximately 10 a.m. along with Detective Porro, also of the Dedham Police Department, and Trooper Kukowski from the DA's office.
Okay. And were you able to go into Norwood Hospital on the 16th?
Ultimately, yes.
Okay. Do you know about what time you were able to go into the hospital?
I recall that the interview began at approximately 5:20 p.m.
Okay. And what do you mean by the interview?
So we interviewed Mr. Tuerk in one of the family waiting rooms that we were situated in by Ms. Wilkies.
And when you say we, who was present?
Myself and Trooper Kukowski.
Okay.
You may.
I'll trade binders with you. And I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 280. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
This is the Miranda rights that was read to Mr. Tuerk.
Okay. And is your signature on that form?
It is.
Okay. And is there a date and time?
There is.
And what's the date and time?
May 16th, 2020, and the time is 5:21 p.m.
Okay. And how were you and Trooper Kutkowski dressed?
I believe Trooper Kutkowski was in a suit and I was in regular plain clothes.
And what about Detective Porro? Did he come with you into the hospital?
He did, yes.
And how was he dressed?
Plain clothes.
And is it fair to say that you were in the interview for the first portion of the interview?
Yes.
Okay. And during the time period that you were in the interview, were you ever concerned that the defendant didn't understand anything that you were saying or Trooper Kutkowski was saying?
No.
Did you observe, have the opportunity to observe Dr. Tuerk moving?
Yes.
In what way did you see him moving?
Initially, prior to the interview, he walked out from the wing his room was located in and walked into the family waiting room to meet with us.
Did he require any assistance?
No.
And during the interview, where was he seated?
He was positioned with his back to the door to the family waiting room.
Okay. And did he ever require any assistance in his chair?
No.
Was it just a regular chair?
Yes.
And at some point in the interview, was there a break?
There was, yes.
And what happened during that break?
Mr. Tuerk asked to take a break. It was approximately 45 minutes.
The break was 45 minutes?
Yes.
And what happened during that break?
He walked back to the area of his room.
Okay. And did you or any other police officer go with him?
No.
And how did the interview resume?
Mr. Tuerk returned back to the family waiting room.
Okay. And what happened at that point with you?
I remained in the hallway.
Okay. And could Dr. Tuerk see you during the time period that you were in the hallway?
No.
And could you hear what was going on in the room?
No, I could not.
Okay. And after the break, who was in the interview?
It was Trooper Kutkowski and Detective Porro.
Okay. After Saturday the 16th, what was your involvement with the investigation?
There was no further involvement from myself as the jurisdiction fell on Dover and the state police.
And what do you mean by jurisdiction?
That the crime had occurred, alleged crime had occurred in Dover.
Okay. Your Honor, could we approach?
Yes.
So you can consider this as proven.
The needle that you saw in the photograph just a moment ago, that was a needle, the party stipulate, that was used to administer Narcan to the defendant and then left by the EMTs on that table that you saw. Okay? Thank you.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
So I understand you're a detective, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've been a detective for about, what, 8 years, 9 years?
10 years?
10 years. And that would be in the town of Dedham, or the city of Dedham, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that you do when you're a detective, obviously, is you detect things. You investigate, and you're looking for potential evidence and things of that nature, right?
Yes.
You want to keep an open mind at all times, right? Would you agree with me that you mentioned on a number of occasions, could I have Exhibit 17, please? Now, you referenced this motor vehicle, the Jeep, as being Miss McLean's Jeep, correct?
Yes.
Can I have 18, please? Now, looking at Exhibit 18, you would agree that what you refer to as Miss McLean's Jeep is the white Jeep, and it's parked within the white lines, but it's pretty much far over, if you will, towards the right, correct?
Yes.
And you know now, in the course of your investigation of this case, that in fact it was not Miss McLean's Jeep, that it was Harry Tuerk's Jeep, right?
I was advised that it was Miss McLean's Jeep that she drove.
Okay. In any event, did you know that in your investigation that Ms. McLean was living with, you can put the lights on, was living with Harry Tuerk in his house in Dover?
Yes.
Did you know that they were boyfriend and girlfriend for a period until they got married?
I didn't know how long they dated for before they got married.
Did you know they were married for about 4 or 5 months tops and then they got divorced? Or they wanted to get a divorce?
No.
So when you're investigating the case and you see the white Jeep Wrangler parked in the parking lot, did you look inside that vehicle?
From the window.
Okay, so you really didn't open the door and look inside it, but...
No.
Okay. You indicate that on the 15th, I believe, that you went to Norwood Hospital initially, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you could not meet with the defendant, is what you said, right?
That's correct.
Now, why could you not meet with the defendant?
Because he had still not woken up yet. He was still unresponsive as far as we were advised.
All right. And you know that when he was admitted to the hospital, that in fact, he was more than unresponsive, he was almost in a coma.
I don't know what state medically he was in, how severe or not.
All right. So as a police officer now, you know, even though you're in plain clothes, you still have the gun and the badge and all of that, right?
Yes.
And you're with the state police and you're going to the hospital to try to get a statement from him, right?
Yes.
And one of the things, for example, one of the things you guys do is you tell people you have a right to remain silent, right?
Yes.
You have a right to an attorney.
Yes.
Can't afford one, we'll give you one.
Yes.
Can't, and if you want to stop talking, you stop anytime, right?
Right.
Those are Miranda warnings.
Right.
And the reason you do that is so the person, the citizen who's being questioned by the police officer is able to make, hopefully, a knowing, intelligent, and voluntary waiver, right, of their rights.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. One of the other issues is that of what's called voluntariness. In other words, is the person making a voluntary statement, not so much a legal statement with the Miranda, but a voluntary statement, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And one of the concerns that you have is, for example, whether or not somebody's impaired as a result of ingestion of drugs or ingestion of alcohol or mental illness or anything like that, right?
Yes.
So you as a police officer, a detective with your almost decade at the time of experience, a concern that when you're interrogating or questioning a person, as you were, that the person is able to make a voluntary statement to you, right?
Correct.
And in fact, you knew that Harry Tuerk was in the hospital, and when he was unresponsive, it was in fact because his blood alcohol level on admission was such that the Norwood Hospital doctors were concerned that it was attempted suicide by alcohol.
This is the first time I'm hearing of that.
Okay. Well, how about the fact that when you observed him in the hospital, did you have at any point have any concern or know anything about his blood alcohol level?
I never observed him in the hospital on the 15th, and I was never made aware of his blood alcohol content on the 15th.
I see, okay. So it was on Saturday, the 16th, at 8 o'clock in the morning, that you went to see him in the hospital, is that correct?
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
We arrived at 10 a.m., but we actually didn't see or communicate with Mr. Tuerk until closer to 5:20 is when the interview began.
Okay, so your initial effort on May 16th would be that you reached out to Ms. Wilkies, is that right?
Yes, I reached out to Ms. Wilkies at 8 a.m. for a status on Mr. Tuerk.
Excellent. And Ms. Wilkies advised you that he had actually woken up around 1 o'clock in the morning, is that correct?
That's correct.
And he was asking for water, right?
That's correct.
So you guys go over to speak with him in the hospital that morning, right?
Yes, we
went over
arrived.
to question him.
Yes, we arrived at about 10 a.m.
And I guess the questioning was in two parts where it was broken because he wanted to take a break and you guys were pretty good. No problem. Let him take a break.
Yes, he requested a break.
Rona, we have the medical records from Norwood Hospital certified, I believe. I'd like to offer those if I could.
Can we just approach?
Sure.
There's no objection. I just want to approach.
When you were speaking with Harry, did you notice, I know the EMTs had been treating him, did you notice that he had all sorts of like linear cuts and scratches on his arms?
I didn't observe them myself.
No?
No.
Did you see any injuries on his arms or his legs or his torso at all?
I didn't. I wasn't looking for the injuries when we were interviewing him.
Okay.
I didn't see them myself.
How about his wrist? Did you see any cuts to his wrist when you were talking with him at all?
No.
That's all I had, Rona. Thank you.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, you may step down. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Just take your time, just watch your step. Raise your right hand, face the clerk, please.
Do solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Have a seat. Thank you. Just do me a favor, just keep your voice up, okay?
Yes.
All right. Good morning. Or good afternoon. Could you please state your name and spell your first and last name?
Sergeant Colby Roy, first name Colby, last name Roy, ROY.
How are you employed, sir?
Currently by the Millis Police Department.
And how long have you been with the Millis Police Department?
Approximately 3.5 years.
And what's your rank?
Sergeant.
And how were you previously employed?
By the Medfield Police Department.
And how long were you employed by Medfield?
Approximately 6 years.
Okay. So directing your attention to May 15th of 2020, were you working in Medfield Police Department during that time period?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And were you dispatched anywhere in particular around 2:45 in the afternoon on May 15th?
Yes, I was dispatched to the area of Rocky Woods on Hartford Street in Medfield.
Where is that generally in Medfield?
Off of Route 109, Hartford Street is a cut through that goes towards Dover and Westwood.
And did you say Rocky Woods?
Yes.
What is that?
A conservation area, reservation.
About how big is it?
Approximately 450-ish acres.
Okay. So it's pretty large. Is all of that in Medfield?
Not all of it. Some of it does extend into Dover.
Okay. And on May 15th, when you went to, where did you go?
I met with other officers from the Medfield Police Department, probably halfway up Hartford Street, on the side of the road where they were all staging.
And what was your purpose in going there?
I was informed that they were attempting to locate a cell phone ping that was possibly in the area.
Okay. And what was the purpose of the ping, was your understanding?
But my understanding was that there was a missing, possibly endangered female that this phone belonged to.
Okay. And so then at some point in time, did you leave Hartford Street?
Yes.
And where did you go?
We responded to, I should not recall the exact address, Valley Road in Dover.
And who were you with?
Officer Bonadies, who at the time was our K-9 officer.
Okay. Can you just, for the record, do you know how to spell Bonadies?
Bonadies.
All right. And you said Officer Bonadies was the K-9 officer?
Correct.
Okay. And so why did you and Officer Bonadies go to Valley Road?
The information that we received from dispatch, the phone was pinging in the area of our Rocky Woods with a radius, a very large radius, and being that it was a large area of woods with people walking in it, it did not make sense to begin a track from the location with the K-9 where we are currently at. So I had asked dispatch what the address was of the location and if that address fell within the perimeter that the ping was coming from.
Okay. And did it?
It did.
All right. So then what was the purpose of going there with the dog?
So the purpose was to meet a officer from Dover there if there was going to be a track to be initiated into Rocky Woods, the most logical starting point would be the point of origin where it was coming from. Okay.
And this is in the afternoon, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And so when you got to, is 29 Valley, does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, so when you got to number 29 Valley Road, where, if anywhere, did you go?
So we pulled up to the residence and began to walk around the perimeter of the residence prior to bringing the dog out. And then I believe as we began to walk with the dog, that's when a Dover officer, Officer Marsher, showed up on scene.
Officer Marsher?
Yes.
Okay. And then what, if anything, happened next?
Officer Marsher informed us that he had a entry code to get into the garage of the house that was provided by family to check the interior of the residence to ensure that nobody was inside.
Okay. And at the point in time that you were speaking with Officer Marsher, were you aware that police had previously been in the home?
I was not.
Okay. And so then what, if anything, happened at that point in time?
So at that point, we entered the residence via the garage. There was a door that entered into a hallway, I believe, kitchen area, announcing our presence inside the residence. And then we began to search the first floor to see if anybody was there, which there was nobody there. We then made our way to the upstairs of the residence.
Okay. And what did you observe upstairs?
Upon getting to the top of the stairs, we looked left down the hallway and saw that there was a bedroom door that looked like it had been forcibly opened at the end of the hallway. The door jamb was splintered. It looked like there was damage to the locking mechanism at the end of the hallway.
Okay. And did you make note of that?
Yes, we did.
And what, if anything, happened after that?
So at this point, unknowing what the situation was at the time and if there was somebody possibly On the inside of that room, I believe I drew my department firearm. Officer Bonadies drew his taser. We made entry into the room to ensure that nobody was in there.
And were you able to clear that room as well?
Yes.
And when you were in the room, what observations did you make?
There was a bed in front of us, appeared to be bedding sheets on the ground. Noted that broken glass was on the ground, and there was a bathroom in there. There was nobody in the bathroom as well. And then we noticed that there was a purse sitting on a nightstand table.
Okay, and so what, if anything, did you do at that time?
At that time, I had dispatch make a phone call to the cell phone that we were getting the ping from, and they called the phone, which began ringing inside of that purse.
Okay. And while you were in the bedroom, did you touch anything?
No.
Okay. So what, if anything, did you do next?
At that point, I believe it was Sergeant Mayo arrived on scene from the Dover Police Department, and we informed him that it looked like there may have been something that struggle of some sort happened here, and that he should notify his detectives, and then we exited the residence the same way that we entered.
All right, I don't have any further questions at this time.
Okay, thank you.
1 minute, please.
Yes.
Apologize. So when you went in the bedroom, you indicated that you made notice of the fact that there was a splintered door. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That'd be the bedroom door?
Yes.
Top of the stairs, you take a left, go all the way down the hallway, and the bedroom is right there, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to approach you, sir, with a photograph and ask if you can identify that photograph. Is that a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw when you went towards the bedroom?
Yes, sir. That would be the staircase there.
All right, so, good, I would offer this, and then I can publish it, and then we can point out different things.
No objection.
Okay, maybe a minute. There's a number on the back, Mr. Reddington. Is that your number?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
We're on the front end.
Yeah, we're up
The exhibit 282 yard.
Okay.
So now shown His Honor and the jurors, the exhibit, this would show where the splinter is on the
Okay,
door.
good.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And you were pointing something out about over here.
Yes, I believe, so this would have been the staircase that we had come up.
So you're coming up the staircase,
Yes,
down the hallway.
correct.
This is where the Halligan tool was used to break into the bedroom by the police, correct?
I was not, all I knew that there was a door that looked like it would be forcibly entered at the end of the hallway, yes.
And when you went in, you had occasion to make an observation of the bed, and the bedclothes were in a ball, kind of bundled up on top of the bed, is that right?
I believe they were on the floor. There was some bedding on the bed, but there was some bedding on the floor as well.
All right, and you made observation that there was a lot of shattered glass on the floor, correct?
I would not necessarily use a lot, but I did see a shattered glass of some sort on the ground.
Okay. Where did you see the shattered glass?
I do not recall exactly, but it was, I believe, between the door and the bed, but I'm not 100% on that.
Okay. I'm going to approach you, sir, with what has been marked as C for identification, and ask if you can identify this.
Yes.
Does that appear to be a fair and accurate depiction of the bed that you're referring to?
Yes.
And you look in front of the bed area there, does that appear to be what appears to be clear items or glass or something of that nature?
Yes, from my recollection, that is what I saw.
Well, I would offer this, Your Honor.
No objection. Exhibit 283.
Thank you. Did you notice what it was readily apparent to be a bottom of like a rocks glass, a drinking glass?
I wouldn't necessarily refer to it as a rocks, but some sort of drinking glass, yes. I don't recall if it was on the ground or where it was, but I do recall seeing
I
that.
recall that it was on the ground and one of you guys picked it up and put it on the dresser.
I do not recall that, sir.
All right, but you do recall that.
I do remember, yes, seeing a piece of the.
So I'm going to show you an item, sir, and ask if this is a fair and accurate representation of a piece of furniture in the bedroom and a piece of a glass.
Yes.
Drop of this.
No objection.
Maybe in the
Exhibit 284.
And looking at that, sir, that would show, this is the window. You'll notice there's like a mermaid or something like that in the windowsill, correct?
Correct.
And this would be a piece of furniture in the bedroom.
Correct.
Looks like a pillow or blankets or something, right?
Correct.
And then someone had placed clearly a broken water glass or a drink glass on that piece of furniture, correct?
It would appear that somebody would have placed it there, yes.
Did you see that there, or did you see it on the floor?
I do not recall exactly. I just remember seeing the glass.
And that pretty much concluded your involvement in this investigation, is that right?
Yes.
That's all I had, Your Honor.
Nothing further.
Okay, you may step down, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
McLaughlin?
Your Honor, the Commonwealth would call Detective Matt Lavery.
Who is it, I'm sorry?
Matt Lavery.
Just take your time, just watch your step. Yes, thank you. Raise your right hand, please.
Good afternoon, sir.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you can have a seat. Thank you. Please. Yes, thank you.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your full name, spelling your last name for the record?
Matthew Lavery, Lavery.
How are you currently employed?
Dover Police Department,
How long have you been with the Dover Police?
10 years.
What is your current capacity?
Detective,
How long have you been a detective?
approximately 7 years.
What are some of your duties as a detective?
Conduct follow-up investigations into crimes against people and property. Respond to crime scenes, note crime scenes, conduct interviews.
Turning your attention to May 15th of 2020, were you working that day?
Yes.
In what capacity?
Patrol.
What does that mean to be in patrol?
I was in a marked cruiser assigned to a sector to answer calls for service.
What shift were you working?
The 3 p.m. to 11 p.m.
At some point, did you become involved in a missing person investigation?
I did.
How did you become involved?
When I came in, they informed me that they were on Valley Road looking into a missing person. They asked me to go take another call for service and then respond to Valley Road.
Approximately what time did you respond to Valley Road?
3:30,
Do you recall what number Valley Road you went to?
29.
Who was at 29 Valley Road when you arrived?
There was members of the Dover Police, the Dedham Police, and the Mass State Police.
Where were they?
They were in the driveway.
What did you do at the residence once you arrived?
I stood by and waited for instruction.
And then what happened?
More members of the state police showed up, and we were instructed to do a canvass of the neighborhood.
What is a canvass?
You go door to door and ask the residents if they saw anything, if they heard anything, if they have any cameras.
What was the results of that canvass?
We found one home on the corner of Valley and Taylor that had some cameras.
And where is Taylor Road in relation to 29 Valley Road?
It would be the lower numbers of Valley, so north towards the center of town.
What about 1 Francis Street?
That would be the opposite direction.
So 20 Taylor Road is not in the direction of travel from 29 Valley Road to 1 Francis, is that right?
Correct.
Approximately how many homes did you go to on May 15th?
Approximately a dozen.
Was there any video from 29 Valley Road in the direction of 1 Francis Street available that you're aware of?
No.
After you completed, well, approximately how long were you canvassing that area?
A couple hours.
After that canvass, what did you do?
We went back to the station to reconvene.
Turning your attention to the morning of May 16th of 2020, what, if anything, did you do?
We responded back to 29 Valley.
Approximately what time?
It was the early morning hours, 2 or 3.
2 to 3 a.m.?
Yes.
What did you do back at Valley Road?
We stood by waiting search warrants.
At some point, did the search warrants arrive?
Yes.
Were they executed?
Yes.
Were you there when they were executed?
I was.
What role did you take during the execution of those search warrants?
I was in the home helping to look with members of the state police and the Dedham police.
What observations did you make of the home?
It was clean, it was tidy. We walked around the first floor, went to the second floor. As we were going up the stairs, I noticed there were some clumps of hair on the stairs. Got to the top, you could go left or right from the landing. Left was the primary bedroom. I noticed the door had some damage to the frame in the door.
And the Massachusetts State Police were with you while you were in the home at that point?
Correct.
After the search warrant was executed at 29 Valley Road, what did you do?
We began another neighborhood canvass, now going up Walpole Street, the opposite direction from the morning or the evening before.
And did you find anything or gain any information at that point?
We were able to get some camera footage that went with the state police, but very little.
What else did you do as far as this investigation goes?
I assisted as needed with interviews with the state police.
On the evening of May 16th of 2020, did you have occasion to go to 1 Francis Street?
I did.
Why is that?
I was notified that the body of Kathleen McLean was located in the pond there.
When you arrived, what was happening at 1 Francis?
There was a lot of people in the driveway to the home at 1 Francis, state police and Dover police. They were standing in the driveway.
To the best of your knowledge, was the home at 1 Francis, was that being occupied at the time?
No.
So it was empty?
Correct.
Was it for sale actively, if you know?
I'm unaware.
Okay. And if you could just explain, you stated that you have been with the Dover Police for approximately 10 years, and some of those years were on patrol, is that right?
Yes.
And when you're on patrol, you have to move around the roadways of Dover, is that right?
That's correct.
Can you please describe the roadways in Dover?
Country roads, they're narrow, they're windy, they're not well lit. We have one stoplight in town.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Did you go into the house at Valley Road?
I did.
So you're a detective, or?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been a detective?
Approximately 7 years.
So as a detective, you obviously went to the academy,
Yes.
and you learn in the academy how to detect things, right?
Yes.
Evidence that you might be looking for, correct?
Yes.
Now, when you went into the home, what day was it? The 15th, 16th? When was
It
it?
was the early morning hours of the 16th.
So this was before or after Kathleen McLean's body had been found?
It was before.
So when you went into the house, it was in the course of continuing with this investigation you were involved in, right?
Yes.
You indicated to the jury that one of the things that you observed is, as I think your words were, clumps of hair on the stairs, right?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that it was like a hair, a long hair, that was kind of curly hair that was on the stairs?
From what I remember, there was a small grouping of hair. on the
Small
stair.
grouping?
Yes.
And was it blonde in color? What was color?
It was light.
It was light.
Yes.
And in fact, sir, there was a photograph that was taken of this particular hair. Is that right?
I didn't take photographs.
So I'm going to approach you, sir, with a photograph and ask if you can tell me, is this a fair and accurate depiction of what you described to this jury as a clump of hair on the stairs?
Yes.
Okay. I'd offer this, Your Honor.
No objection.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, maybe a minute.
Exhibit 285.
Now, sir, this would show the stairs, and this would show the hair that you're referring to, correct?
There's several lines there, yes, but there could be one here, yes.
Okay, the hair are hairs. This is
Yes.
what you're referring to, right?
Yes.
On the stairs, correct? Did you have occasion to look inside the car at any time?
I did not.
Did anybody, or is it your understanding, sir, that there were clumps of hair or hairs all over the furniture in the house, in the living room, for example?
I'm not aware of that.
Not aware of it. Did you know they had a dog, big Labrador?
I did not.
Was the Labrador in the house when you were there?
I didn't see a dog.
Did you see hair all over the house from the Labrador shedding, sir?
I don't recall.
So you don't know where that came from, do you?
I do not.
Okay. Now, when you were investigating, you went into the bedroom.
I did.
Up the top of the stairs, hook a left, and then you go in, right?
Yes.
This is a number of police officers had been in this bedroom up to this point, right?
I believe so, yes.
Photographs were taken to depict or show or secure evidence, right?
I didn't take photographs.
Well, I know you didn't, because you have people that will do that, right?
Yes.
And the people that will do that would be crime scene services, CSI, they call them, right?
Correct.
Right? One of the things that was taken is you noted that there were, for example, in the living room, there was a martini glass that was of interest to be taken on the, right in front of the large couch, right?
I see that, yes.
And also, it was of note that there were a number of alcohol bottles that were in the kitchen. Tito's, vodka, martini and Rossi, things of that nature, right?
I see that, yes.
You saw that, is that right?
I see it, yes.
Put off of these two?
Any objection, Ms. McLaughlin?
No, Your
Okay.
Honor, thank you.
Maybe admitted.
Exhibits 286, 287.
Now, when you went into the bedroom, sir, you would agree with me looking at Exhibit 283 that this is a fair and accurate depiction of the bedroom, the bed, and the bedclothes, correct?
Correct.
Would you agree with me, sir, that there was shattered glass or broken glass all around this area that I'm pointing towards the floor in front of the bed?
I recall there being glass, yes.
Yes, and you also recall that there was a large drink glass, kind of like, it looked like it was smashed.
I don't recall.
You don't recall? Okay, I'm going to show you Exhibit 284. Do you recall seeing that object?
I do not recall seeing that.
I'm going to approach you, sir, and ask if this is another fair and accurate depiction of the headboard, the backboard, if you will, of the bed and the floor itself.
Yes.
Okay, get off of this.
No objection.
Maybe a minute.
Exhibit 288.
Thank you. Publishing that for the jury. Can't see, let me know. Showing you this photograph is now marked Exhibit 288. Does that show shattered glass all in the front of the area of the back of the bed?
There is, yes.
And that was there when you saw it, correct?
Yes.
That's all we have. Thank you, sir.
No further questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. You may step down.
Safety approach?
Yes. case. We are on schedule, if not a little bit ahead of schedule at this point. So I am actually going to let you go for the day. A couple things. Please remember my instructions with respect to both this case and any case in the building. We're talking about the case, no independent research. Do not visit any scenes, no posting anything, and please keep an open mind because you haven't heard all of the evidence yet. I wanted to let you know we are moving courtrooms tomorrow. So we're actually going to be in the courtroom across the hall in the corner. Okay, so report where you usually report, and the court officers will show you where to go. Okay, Officer Land will meet you if you want to park in the behind the deeds building. You're more than welcome to do that. Officer Land will meet you in the morning. Okay, and bring you to the deeds building where you've been going to congregate in the morning, and then walk you over here. Okay, in order to use that courtroom, there may be some up and down stairs that we have to all use. Is that a problem for anybody? If it is, just let the court officer know when you leave today. And I apologize for the inconvenience. It's just the design of this courthouse. So again, I apologize in advance for the inconvenience about moving to another courtroom. Okay, have a great afternoon. I also wanted to let you know that tomorrow is going to be a full day. As you indicated, Wednesday is a half day. So you can plan on a break about 1 o'clock or so on Wednesday. Again, off Thursday and Friday, and I'll let you know about next Monday as we get into tomorrow and Wednesday. Okay, thank you for your time and your patience. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Yes, and I believe, before you go, I believe that we're going to order lunch for you tomorrow for planning purposes. So you can talk to the court officers about that as well. If you want to get here a little bit early tomorrow, by all means, I think you'll be out there at 8, Officer Lance. Okay? Thank you.
Is everything all right? First, please leave your notebooks in the chairs.
Okay, be seated. So, any other, or I should say, any witness issues by way of scheduling that you know of?
The medical examiner is the only person that I'm aware of.
Okay, and she needs to testify?
Wednesday.
Okay. All right, Mr. Reddington, you heard that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right, are you anticipating any witness scheduling issues?
No.
All right, okay. Anything else before we break for the day?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
The one thing I wanted to raise is the redaction in the defendant's statement was made on page 6. It's pretty early on in the statement, and it's regarding the Attorney General investigation. The only thing, I am requesting that the court instruct the jury that there's been a redaction and they're not to consider why, because the police are aware that he's not working, and it's a little bit odd. It seems like it's unclear how they would know that unless there's been some conversation that the jury doesn't know about. So I just don't want the jury to think that the police did anything wrong in any way, and particularly because they keep them on in a recorded format.
Mr. Reddington, any objection to that? Just essentially telling the jury that there's a redaction in the statement, that they're not to speculate as to what's been redacted. It's a ruling the court made with respect to inadmissible evidence.
Yeah, on what, the transcript?
It's on the transcript, but it's also on the audio portion. So
Meaning there's a space on the audio?
It's not as, so in the video ones.
Oh, I see. So in other words, you don't want speculation that the police cut something out of it or something?
Yeah, or the police somehow knew something for some reason that they shouldn't.
Yeah, I have no problem with you telling them that, look, you'll notice on the audio that there appears to be a skip, and that's got nothing to do with the police, just so that they know. Yep.
It's less obvious in just an audio interview than in a video. You can usually tell that there's been some sort of a skip.
Right.
With just the audio, you can't really tell as easily.
No, I have no problem with that.
All right, so logistically, everything's going to have to go from here over to the other courtroom.
We understand.
I believe you can start that process this afternoon or during lunch.
We have a list at 2, which I think
Okay.
is going on over there.
Can we move now?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, well, there was a plea, but they
Are
should
they
be
in
done.
session over? All right, well, let me check and see if they're in session.
They are not, so they're available.
Okay, so I suggest if you can move your things over there now, I would do so. And then obviously just confirm that the AV is working in there tomorrow, so we don't run into any issues with that. Mr. Rettington, you're going to move your boxes over there as well?
Oh, yeah, we'll do that now.
Okay.
And then we marked a few additional items today by agreement as well, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, anything else?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
I think that we may need some court intervention on the autopsy photographs. I have provided defense counsel with a final set that I would intend to introduce. I'm not sure if he's had an opportunity to look at them yet. I anticipate from prior conversations that there may be a few objections to some of them. I'm happy to give the court the photographs that I plan or intend to mark as exhibits so that you have a heads up and maybe we can have this issue done prior to her
I
testimony.
have no problem if the DA gives you copies right now so you can take a look at.
Okay, and you're saving your objections.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I'll take a copy then
Okay,
whenever you
thank
get
you.
around
I'll
to
go
it.
downstairs and get them for you.
And I'm assuming you want an instruction, which I would give a contemporaneous instruction with respect to the graphic photographs. Mr. Rettington?
I would like you to take a look at the photographs that the government has, and then we can have a discussion about their admissibility.
Okay, and an instruction?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay.
Sorry, yes.
All right, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I was like, where is it?
Pardon me. Thank you.
All rise.
Thank God Kristen got that late.
Seriously.
That would have been a nice.
Oof. Well, it was a nightmare for me.
Oh, you're still filming.
The system's rigged, man, it's time to break free. Eyes wide open, gotta see what I see. Standing on the front lines, fighting for the truth. Lift the veil of lies, it's time to be the proof. Take a stand, don't you back down. Raise your voice, let's shake the town.